All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Spoken Studios with my guys Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
And Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 178, full swing, full motion, man. We are so happy to be here and for you guys to be here with us. Whether you are live streaming, whether you are podcasting, or you are on YouTube watching them with us, thank you so much for being with us in this time, in this hot dog days of summer area of the sports landscape. We got some football that is on the horizon. We've already had one preseason game, which always seems, it's so funny, the Hall of Fame game always seems to have rain. I don't understand how this works, but there's always some sort of lineman issue that they have, and we finally have a preseason game. It still got through. It was later than expected. It was a terrible game, but football is officially here, guys. We actually have preseason football. Training camp is well on its way. We got a lot of good things to talk about from Chiefs camp, a lot of real things to talk about, some things that might be a little unpopular, but that's what we do here. And once again, thank you all for being a part of what we do here at the Spoken Podcast. A little announcement here. Our guy Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, decided to join Trevor and I in the 30s bracket when it comes to age. Welcome. And we want to just say happy birthday to guy Mr. Eddie Ortiz. He turned 30 yesterday, and just wanted to give a salute to him on the show. We know that he had himself a nice little fun-filled night last night. Won't go into detail, but he's a little dehydrated and a little exhausted before the show, but he's rallied. He's here. He's been taking his vitamins, his electrolytes. I got him taken care of with some hydration, and we're going to party again tonight with them, man. We're really excited to have him on the show, have the whole group here. I believe this is back-to-back weeks for the first time in a long time, and we're really glad to do that because we got some things to talk about, man. We're going to have the Eddie Hour in just a little bit. I'm sure Eddie's got some thought-provoking questions for Trevor and I to discuss and debate, potentially. We're going to hand out some L's as we always do, maybe even potentially some W's. But we're going to start right here, man, when it comes back to Chiefs training camp, because like I said, we're really starting to get a vivid picture and understanding of some of the players that are going to, I believe, make some immediate impact this season. We started off last week's episode after I got directly back from camp, and I was discussing some of the newer guys, whether it's veterans they signed in free agency, whether it was guys they drafted. I wanted to really just dive in on what I had seen from some of these new guys. And since that practice and since that episode, we have seen the Chiefs take on padded practices, and that's when you really start to see things take shape as far as the team, and most importantly on the defensive side, because as I told you guys last week, I loved what I saw from George Karlaftis. I loved what I saw from Leo Chenal. I loved mostly what I saw from Trent McDuffie and some of these other younger players like Joshua Williams and some of these younger guys, but you can't really put a pin into what you believe that you're seeing from them until you see them actually hit. And that's what we've been seeing all week through practice, and in particular today. And I wanted to throw out some notes from Saturday's practice, which is today while we're live streaming this video and this episode. Nick Jacobs from 41 Action News had a quote that I'm very partial to, and I wanted to start the show off with this one. Quote, "Really impressed with Orlando Brown Jr. today and the one-on-one drill. The weight loss has helped him tremendously with his foot quickness." Just wanted to put that out there for anybody that was worried about him not being in shape or ready for practice and ready for training camp. He's out here doing his thing. My guy Orlando Brown Jr. is ready to take over, and he's looked great in training camp so far, guys. Ron Kopp, our guy from Arrowhead Pride, he had a quote about George Karlaftis. Quote, "Karlaftis was exploding off the ball and giving Andrew Wiley all he could handle on every snap, powering through that outside shoulder to make Mahomes at least uncomfortable for a few throws. Full go, he might have been able to hit the ball as it was released at least one time," end quote. So George Karlaftis is already making a huge impression. He's been...
There were some reports he was like dropping in coverage a couple times too. So
yeah, I think Spags is definitely just experimenting and tinkering with what Karlaftis can and ultimately will do moving forward. I was listening to our guys, It's Always Sunny and Chiefs Kingdom, our guys, Real Bird Lawyer Austin and Taylor Witt. They had Charles Goldman, our guy from Chiefs Wire, KCSN. They were discussing a lot of things about George Karlaftis and how they could even potentially have him him on the inside and pass rush plays.
It had Chris Jones on the outside a couple times.
Yeah. Locked On Chiefs was saying the same thing. I got up really early this morning. I wanted to hear what everybody else was really talking about, because when I'm not at camp, I want to make sure that I'm staying up to date of what everyone else is seeing, and then watch the video and footages for myself and kind of see if I'm seeing the same things. And it's really exciting to hear that about George Karlaftis, because, again, this is a guy that the Chiefs are not only big on, they did take in the first round, but a lot of people were critical on what he was able to do as an individual, as just a power rusher. He gets a lot of comparisons to Ryan Kerrigan, who I believe is a borderline Hall of Fame pass rusher in the NFL. I think that Karlaftis has a great opportunity here, and in a lot of ways has been like the toast of the town when it comes to training camp, because we've heard great things of Sky Moore, we've heard great things of Isaiah Pacheco, which, by the way, continues to happen. He continues to emerge. We've heard a lot of things about Joshua Williams and some of these other younger guys, but George Karlaftis is such a pivotal piece, and I think we all agree here that if he continues to emerge and continues to excel with his skill set, I think that's going to pay significant dividends next to Chris Jones, Carlos Dunlap, and even potentially Frank Clark, which I'll get to in just a second. But we also had heard, I've been watching video all morning from Trent McDuffie. So this is what's funny. We saw this morning, I don't know if you guys had seen the videos or not, but if you haven't, go to Twitter, check out KCSN's videos. They've been all over it. I'll give them all the respect in the world for what they've been doing with their video coverage. They have several videos today of Trent McDuffie breaking up great passes across the board, all three levels of the field. He's out there, he's hustling down balls, he's staying hip to hip with guys, and he's breaking up passes. And I tweeted out something today because I've been staying kind of quiet on the McDuffie front. I've really been just giving him an opportunity to ease his way into this situation, because as we all know, there's a lot of pressure that comes on to first round picks, especially guys that you're essentially building your draft class off of, which is Trent McDuffie. Chiefs traded up for him. They got ahead of the Bills and other teams that were interested in him. They went and got their guy. This is a guy they obviously felt that they wanted to build their defense around moving forward. And we've seen him somewhat struggle in early portions of the training camp, which I was expecting, because when you're coming against a team like the Chiefs, who have talent across the board on the offense, it's going to be difficult for a rookie cornerback to come in here and just start dominating. Yep. And I tweeted out today, I said that McDuffie heard all the negative chatter and decided to make a stop at practice today, because it's been out there. I've seen people tweeting about it. I've heard people on local radio talk about it. I've seen it on TV. People have been questioning, well, maybe McDuffie isn't the guy they thought he was going to be. And I think he went out there and made a statement today at practice, and I think practice, as we're speaking right now, is about to wrap up. It's usually between 11:15 and 11:30 when they decide to do that. But all signs point to Trent McDuffie really taking that next step. And I don't want to be just I know I'm learning from Trevor in this area that I want to be more of a serial optimist here. So naturally, I'm going to try to take an optimistic standpoint here. But you can't help but ignore what your eyes are telling you, what your ears are telling you. And I think that as training camp has gone on, I think McDuffie continues to get better. And that's something that you definitely want to see. But one of the points I want to point out from training camp today, and from just about every single training camp practice to this point of this year's training camp, is something I have been begging for the last 2 years that I think might finally be happening. I think the Chiefs' hand is being forced in this direction, primarily because the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill, a guy that they could just rely on third downs and any type of play they need to get a first down on. They can get it to Tyreek Hill. Now that that's no longer a situation, we're seeing Patrick Mahomes feeding Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield with passes. Now, I know that there are a lot of critiques and criticisms on Clyde Edwards-Helaire as far as what he's become so far in his NFL career, but I think we all can defend him in this regard. The Chiefs have not utilized him the way he should have been utilized the first 2 seasons of his NFL career. We just talked about this before we started recording the show, before we dropped this live stream, that it's frustrating to see the way the Chiefs have utilized Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because we know, going back to his college days, what he was best known for was being able to catch the ball out of the backfield and be an effective piece to the passing game. And that hasn't happened so far in his NFL career. You could sit here and say that he's not getting open or things of that nature, but there's one thing we know about Andy Reid. When he wants to get a guy open, he'll scheme him open. Guys will get open in this offense. Now, Clyde needs to get a little more acclimated and understanding where to find himself and position himself in the field. That's fair. But I think we all could agree that he has not gotten nearly as many targets as he should to this point of his career going into year 3 in the passing game. And I think if he's going to be the player that some of us were hoping him to be as the 32nd overall pick the year directly after the Chiefs win their first Super Bowl in 50 years, I would like to believe that's the way they get him acclimated in this offense, by getting him out there in the the pass game and opening it up, because as we all know, the last time the Chiefs had an unstoppable offense was in 2018, which, by the way, bias aside, just spitting truth here, that's the greatest offense I've ever seen, the 2018 Chiefs offense with Kareem Hunt. And Kareem Hunt's greatest skill set, although he was a very good rusher, because in 2017, the year before, he led the league in rushing, his greatest skill set was being able to go out there and catch passes out of the backfield and break up plays and make things into something with his feet. That's what I think Clyde needs to be in this offense. He'll never be what Kareem Hunt was, but who the hell could be? Very few players, if at all. So Clyde needs to be a toned-down version of that. But if you get that back on this offense while still losing Tyreek Hill, I feel like there can be a little bit of a one-for-one type of effect here, where you lose a great player, but you reclaim or you recreate what you once had out of the backfield. All of a sudden, this offense becomes unstoppable again, if and when Juju Smith-Schuster, MVS, Sky Moore, Mecole Hardman, guys like that really add to the wide receiver depth, which I do expect them to have. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on these things that we heard from today. So, Trevor, I want to get your feedback on some of these reports we'd gotten from guys like Ron Kopp, Nick Jacobs, KCSN, just a general idea. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that, and I want to move on to some things that I want to be brutally honest about.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited the most about Karlaftis. A lot of the words and the reports have been coming out about him, about them moving him around in different ways, playing him in the middle, him dropping back into coverage a couple times, and dominating on the edge. Just the defensive line in general is what I've been really wanting to pay attention to. Some good words about Dunlap out there looking like a menace. That's what you want to hear. I'm motivated. Carlos Dunlap on this team is something that we would definitely need. So hearing about that, and yeah, just McDuffie actually being mentioned, out there making plays. I think he had a pick today. Had a nice couple batted passes, as you alluded to. Yeah, mostly just defensively, and obviously Pacheco getting a lot of work, in the return game and taking reps as with the first team offense. I think that kid's gonna be a little secret weapon for this offense at some time. I haven't heard much about the other running backs though, outside of Pacheco and Clyde though. I mean, Rojo haven't heard much about too much, and then what's his name who we brought back, McKinnon. We haven't heard much about him at all either. There hasn't been much, so I'd like to hear about them, seeing that obviously I'm not there. I can't hear about the whole entire running back room and who's doing what at all times. But I'm just interested to see who's on the active roster, once the season starts, because we got a lot of depth there, and Pacheco's making his way up the ranks there quickly. That's how it seems. I'm interested to see how all that plays out, because obviously I always want the best guy on the field at any time. So that's all that matters to me. I heard a couple reports Josh Gordon was making some good plays today, so that kind of goes against our whole take on Josh Gordon possibly not making this team, or I don't know. I mean, it may or may not, but yeah, a lot of receivers. Cornell Powell, I think, was getting some good work today as well. I think they're playing Chris Jones on the edge a little bit today. They're rotating him and Karlaftis on the edge in the middle, putting Karlaftis in the middle. I like experimenting all that with the different blitz packages and see whose strength, who shines, and what kind of, I guess they were giving Pat a lot of work today with different, and Spags was mixing up a lot of blitz packages today, and I like that. I want to see us be very aggressive on the defensive line this year. That's something we were definitely lacking last year, getting after the quarterback, so that's good to hear. Yeah, I don't think there's too much more to add other than the rise of Pacheco and Karlaftis getting a lot of praise today, which I'm excited about, because that was my guy. I was kind of hitching my wagon to.
I'd really like to know your thoughts about Orlando Brown Jr., who's going to be our left tackle.
I never doubted he would
for the next 5+ years.
I never doubted he would come to camp. It was never a problem. I'm not talking about the on the field stuff. I knew he was going to come to camp. I knew he was going to most likely be in shape. I'd never questioned that. Him being out there and looking good doesn't go against anything that I've said or felt. This is more off the field stuff that I've had a problem with. So I'm sure he's going to be good. I'm sure he's going to be great. And we're talking about training camp, so we can get all hot and bothered about a guy in training camp. That's fine.
I've been like borderline lactating when I've been watching some of these videos, man. This guy's getting me excited as hell.
Yeah, I just hope he's available come playoff time. You know what I mean? That's kind of all that matters to me. But as long as he can go out there and play, during the regular season and make his bones that way, that's all I want. I want to protect Pat at all costs, and if he's the guy that's going to do it, I'm all for it. I never doubted he wouldn't be at camp. I never doubted he wouldn't be in shape. That was never something of mine that I was saying. So this is what I expected. I just hope he can put it together for the season and be out there and be available when we need him the most.
He played all 3 playoff games.
He wasn't available in the Bengals game.
Yes, he was. He didn't play in the regular season game.
Okay.
Yeah, he got injured before that. He had a hamstring injury or a calf injury.
Didn't he miss a couple games though?
No, it was just
No,
that one
it was
game.
that one game.
And it wasn't even like a serious injury because
It was during practice or warm-ups.
Andy Reid literally had to pretty much say, "No, you're not playing,
Okay.
bro." Like,
Yeah.
I mean that's all.
'Cause
That's all that
suited-
matters to me, man, is his availability.
Yeah.
yeah, he suited up, and Andy Reid was like, "Whoa."
Yeah, he tried to get on
Yeah,
the field.
he was upset that he wasn't playing.
Supposedly he looks slimmer and he looks quicker on his feet, and that's what you want, man. Because that was his biggest nagging issue last year, was just kind of getting beat too much on the edge, especially in the first 6-7 games of the season last year. He was getting burnt too much.
Right.
The biggest story for me during this training camp this past week is definitely Orlando Brown Jr. going back to training camp.
Yep.
Finally reporting back. Obviously, Lance, you were very, very optimistic that he was going to come back, that there was no way he was going to sit out, and he did just that. And even him, he came out and said, I think the first media day, saying it's like, yeah, there's no bad blood between me and the Chiefs, you know?
Right.
There's none of that. Like,
Yeah,
so
he said
everything
he wants to be here.
Yeah, so everything that was out there it was just media creating a buzz, you know? But he came out, he said how he felt. He said that he wants to pretty much retire at Kansas City Chiefs. That he loves the city, he loves the team, he loves the culture. So I'm very, very excited for that. And all you hear about him in training camp is like, yeah, he's a vocal leader. Since he came back, he's been that guy to bring the offensive line together, you know, to be the vocal leader that they need, that veteran presence, even though he's still young.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that for me is the biggest takeaway from training camp this past week. Obviously, Pacheco, with the news of him being our for sure punt returner, kick returner, I believe. That's exciting. I've seen him obviously.
dynamic.
Yeah, I've seen him in training camp. Some of the videos, how quick he is with his feet. I love that he's not a slim running back. He's 5'10",
215.
Yeah, he's
big.
bulky. Yeah, he's a big. He reminds me of Kareem Hunt. I know that's a lot, and because we haven't seen anything from him, but his body, the way he works, the way his skill sets reminds me so much of Kareem Hunt that I am so excited for him. Obviously, I can't wait for preseason to start next. I believe we play Saturday. Actually,
15th,
7th. Yeah,
August 15th. Yeah, against the Bears in Chicago.
August 15th. So
Yeah.
that's a Tuesday. The 12th is Friday.
Or is it-
13,
I had the
14,
schedule.
Monday. That'll be 15 is a Monday.
Yeah, I had the schedule up just a minute ago. And I
I believe it's Saturday. I think they play Saturday. That's what I thought. But either way, football is back.
13th. I apologize.
Oh
The
yeah,
13th.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, Saturday.
Yeah.
So 7 days from today, we're gonna get to see all these guys. Obviously, we're gonna get to see a lot of McDuffie. We're gonna get to see a lot of Karlaftis. Hopefully, start seeing these rookies, see what they're capable of. Obviously, it's their first game in the NFL, so if they miss a tackle, if they miss something, you know, don't knock them for that. It's preseason. It's getting their feet wet, you know, into the NFL. Kind of like get climatized to what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then obviously all that talk about McDuffie, obviously probably not living up to expectations and all that. It's all just talk, man. At the end of the day, these players haven't played, so we really can't just knock them off, knock them for what we've seen in training. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's training. There's a reason why it's called training, because you're training to better yourself as an athlete. So obviously, him being a rookie, there's going to be some challenges. It's him getting used to the new system. The new, obviously, there's a completely difference between college and NFL. Some people adjust to it immediately. Some people take some time. So let's take some time with all these rookies, not just Trent McDuffie. All these rookies, we need to be patient. Mid season, then we can start analyzing, seeing, okay, this is what we've seen so far. what more can we see from this player? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the same goes in the opposite way too. It's like if one guy's like shining through preseason, don't like set your expectations too high on guys if they're like blowing guys out.
At the end of the day, they're still rookies. Obviously, they're gonna have their ups and downs throughout the season. They're rookies. Just don't like Trevor said. Don't set the expectations way too high if they fucking have an amazing preseason.
You don't think we're gonna be the best defense in the NFL this year?
Everyone's in the greatest shape of their lives, all that shit.
No.
I will directly comment on what you guys were saying about Pacheco. That was on my Rolodex of topics to discuss, but since you guys wanted to go at that, I do want to have a couple takes on that and present those to you guys. So you're right, Eddie, about the fact that according to Chiefs special teams head coach Dave Tobe, he has announced that Pacheco moving forward will be their kick returner, and punt returning duties will still be probably more likely Mecole Hardman and or Sky Moore. Yeah. But the thing I wanted to bring up about Isaiah Pacheco is everything you guys have pretty much already alluded to, but I want to be a little bit more specific and detailed about it, because you're right about the whole hype aspect to these young players, because we have not seen them in actual game scenarios and game situations. So, which is why I don't want to fall victim to buying into Isaiah Pacheco's stock just yet. Yeah. Because I remember in the third round, the Chiefs traded up to get a Kareem Hunt, and we're thinking, oh, this is Spencer Ware's job to lose. Spencer Ware goes down. Kareem Hunt was this guy that never fumbled in college, fumbles his first snap. You're thinking, oh shit, and then goes and has the greatest debut game in the history of a running back. Literally, the greatest debut game ever. He had like 300 total yards and 3 touchdowns.
He beat the Patriots by himself.
Yeah. Yes, and that's the thing. But here's the thing. With all that said, it's getting really difficult to not buy into the hype of Isaiah Pacheco.
Well, and the underdog story helps too.
Yes,
where he was
sixth-round pick.
Yeah.
Sixth-round pick. Yeah, that's what helps him a lot more.
Out of Rutgers, a college that's been very up and down. Sherrano had some good years there, but outside of that. I mean, but here's the thing: they have produced good running backs. Ray Rice came from that league, that team as well. So there's a pedigree there. But here's the thing about Pacheco is that everything we hear about him as an individual is everything I love about this team as a whole, especially these young guys they got in this draft and in free agency, is that he's all about getting better. He's all about excelling. It's not like he's out here trying to represent a brand, which I'm not opposed to. Like, go and get a brand, go and get your money. But as a guy who's unproven and is a guy that's so low on the total ball working his way up, that is why it's so hard for me not to buy into him immediately, because also the fact, if he is going to excel in this league, if he is going to play at a high level, is he not in the perfect situation? Yeah, the Chiefs are an offense that run the ball a lot. But Andy Reid has been notorious throughout the decades of being able to utilize running backs, which is why I've been saying so long now that Clyde Edwards-Helaire needs to be getting more pass attempts. Now, we all know that what we've been hearing over the last few months is that Tyreek Hill was begging for the ball, demanding the ball, and the Chiefs had to continue to feed him the ball. He got over 150 targets. Now it's going to be more of a fluctuation. Now it's going to be more of a pick-your-poison offense. I think guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and or Isaiah Pacheco can get those opportunities out of the pass game, because we do know this offense is going to live and die by Patrick Mahomes' arm, which is why it's imperative that they have the offensive line that they have, which, by the way, ESPN did rank as the number 1 rated offensive line, which is not crazy to me, because I think they have the greatest center in football right now in Creed Humphrey. I think they have 2 superstar guards in Joe Thuney and in Trey's Pancake Papa Smith, and then talking about Orlando Brown Jr. being, I think, a top 10 left tackle in this league, is going to continue to excel in this league at only 26 years old. Right tackle, it's still up for debate. I'm still big on Darian Kennard. I know Andrew Wiley's been getting the first team reps and more than likely will start as the right tackle in this league, which I get because this team is very comfortable with him. But I think the running backs this season in particular have a golden opportunity to be effective producers because of the talent, because of the youth, and because of their offense and offensive line, the system around them, and the offensive line that can protect him. Because as we know, even Orlando Brown Jr. is a better graded left tackle in the pass game than the run game. And I think that's why this suits him better. And I think guys like Pacheco, to answer your question though, Trevor, about Rojo and McKinnon, which, by the way, that has become the competition. I haven't heard McKinnon's name
really mentioned at all.
That's become the competition, is that third and final spot. I don't think they're going to carry 4 running backs. I think they're going to have 3 running backs. I think they'll have the fullback.
One of them's got to go.
Yeah, Michael Burton's going to make the team. I'm not big on the whole fullback thing. I'd rather you keep an additional running back.
I like it. That's Andy Reid's offense. He finds ways to utilize it.
I know.
In big moments, too.
And I know the 49ers do the same thing. Use check, with Kyle Shanahan. I know that there's still some of that old school mentality.
Line stuff.
It's just confusing to me with Andy Reid, because at least least Kyle Shanahan is a more of a run schemer, where Andy Reid's more of a pass air raid type of guy. I'm like fullbacks. Like I understand they have their
Burton
plays.
Getting some work, and he can move.
Against the Chargers, he did, but that was so spotty, and again, he doesn't get a lot of snaps, so it's kind of... Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, though, is that with Rojo and McKinnon, it's going to definitely be a competition between them both. I really don't know which one of them are going to make the team. I do know that there's been a tendency, as effective as McKinnon has been in the playoffs, and I would love to see him stay on this team, there's also been a tendency with Andy Reid about having big physical running backs, and Rojo is more of that type of guy.
I was on the hype train for Rojo when we first signed him because I loved his what I thought he would be a good fit, a good thunder to the lightning of Clyde.
Right.
So it's been underwhelming at camp so far, just from the reports and what I've heard and not heard about Rojo. That's why I was a little concerned, because I had him being the RB1 this year as far as how many carries.
Yeah.
I had him leading the team in carries. But with the rise of Pacheco and things like that, I mean, I think Pacheco will tend to be more of a special teams guy this year than I think a true running back, if we're all being honest with ourselves. I mean, I know the hype is fun and he's an electrifying guy, but I think that a lot of that electricity is going to be in punt returns this year than it is anything
kick
else.
returns,
Or kick returns, yeah. And one thing I will say about Pacheco is that if you watch his film, he's not Demarcus Robinson. He's not these guys that backpedal and try to make things too much, try to create too much. He kind of is a guy that picks a direction, has a vision, and goes for it, and he has that speed that is just game breaking. So I think he's going to be fun to watch on some returns this year. But the running backs room is just something I've been really interested in watching and keep an eye on.
I wanted to have... So, and just a side note, then I want to get into some honest conversations, because as excited as I am about a lot of things when it comes to training camp and some of these younger players and some of these other guys that we're seeing develop their games within this Chiefs system, both offensively and defensively, I'm going to have some honest conversation about a few guys. But I do want to make another side note about what we're hearing out of training camp as far as the secondary. So, according to Charles Goldman of Chiefs Wire, the Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo expects Rashad Fenton to jump right back in to the competition as cornerback as soon as he's healthy.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to mention this is because, as I've been saying all offseason, and anybody that's been paying attention to anything news-related for the Chiefs and their defense moving forward, we know that the secondary is going to be absolutely pivotal to their success. We're all big on McDuffie. We're excited about him. We like what we've seen from Joshua Williams. We know that Justin Reed is going to be a leader on this defense. Juwan Thornhill is going to be a leader on this defense. We know that Lonnie Johnson's getting opportunities to make this team and do something noteworthy on this team. We know that Lord Jarius Sneed is the man. We don't have to debate that. We know that he's going to be absolutely on this team, and he's going to make big plays all season long. He's a lockdown corner. But I don't want people to make the mistake of forgetting Rashad Fenton in this defense, because I think he's one of those true unsung heroes on this team. Rashad Fenton graded as one of the best corners in football last year. Now, he plays more of a limited role. He plays a lot of the dime stuff where you have a lot of corners out there. It might be a little easier for him to be to excel in this defense because the pressure isn't really put on him to lock down a wide receiver one, sometimes even the wide receiver two. But he does his job and does it so consistently, which is why getting him back into the fold is so important, because he's also one of the longest tenured defensive players on this team now. He's been with the team now for 4 years.
And he's played on big moments.
He's playing big moments, and he's played well in those big moments.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that out there, that although there are other star players on this defense, there are other guys that take up the majority of the attention.
Don't forget about Finn, man.
You can't forget about Finn.
He's a stud.
I wanted to put his name out there, and I want to put some respect on his name on here, because I know he hasn't been practicing a lot. But when he gets back from, I believe it's a lower leg injury, if I'm not mistaken, a hamstring or something like that. I want to see him once he gets back. I don't want people to be shocked when this guy gets himself a starting role again and gets himself right back into the swing of things. Because I'm expecting big things, because he's also one of the guys that's on a 1-year deal.
Right.
He's got 1 year left to prove it, whether the Chiefs want to retain him or he's going to get big money in free agency
and
this
trust
next
me,
offseason.
if anybody believes in Rashad Fenton, it's Rashad Fenton. That guy is...
He lets it be known.
Yeah, man, the whole brap, the whole
yeah,
celebration
man.
he was doing.
I love that shit, man.
I do, too. It's Marcus Peters-esque, and our team missed a lot of that last year, a lot of that attitude at times. So he's one of those guys that kind of is a fuel to the fire kind of guy. Every team needs... I think Brian Cook is going to be one of those guys as well. Yeah. Whenever he gets his opportunities this year. I
didn't even mention Brian, yeah.
He's going to be a guy that's going to pop off screen, I think, fairly quickly whenever he gets his chance. But yeah... I love Rashad Fenton. I've been a fan of him since he started kind of getting in the rotation, had his chance. He's made plays. He's also given up some big plays as well and gotten burned at times and been embarrassed. But there's also been some terrible calls in the postseason against him as well when he's had his chance to start at times as well. But I think, I agree with you. I think that's a good call. I think people are kind of forgetting about him. He's kind of getting lost in the mist a little bit. But I think he's a starter. I think he's a guy that's going to be in there just as much as anybody else in the rotation as far as like on the field and field time. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I think he's ready to come back. One of they saying he is going to be back though. It's
tough to say at this point.
Yeah,
I'd imagine it's going to be within this week.
You think he makes it before?
He'll be back before the preseason game. I believe Spagnuolo was talking
Probably just
about
taking
it.
the time because we got depth right now.
Yeah,
There's no reason to hurry back. He's a veteran.
Yeah.
He's a veteran.
Yeah, he has this because I believe Spagnuolo talked about him a couple days ago, pretty much saying that Fenton, whenever he comes back, he's gonna be.
We got so many corners.
He's gonna be Fenton. You know what I mean? I have no doubt in my mind that he's gonna come back and be who he was last.
Yeah, because what's the name? The guy's name is Johnson. That's
Josh Williams.
Josh Williams. I mean, yeah, he supposedly he's been getting good reviews too from for filling in for that position as well. So I mean, having a nice bit of riches there to choose from is a good problem.
Well, I mean, think about it like this. Also, the fact that we're talking about from one year to the next. Last year, the Chiefs' mentality at corner and safety and all these other areas and the secondary was we'll take what we can get.
Yeah.
You have Dan Sorensen playing meaningful snaps in big games.
Coverage.
Now it's we're gonna have to really trim some fat here. Like we have a collection plate of opportunity here. We have all this talent, young talent. It's gonna be interesting to see who doesn't make this team, because I think whoever doesn't make this team at corner and secondary, or just in the secondary as a whole, they're gonna get signed immediately. I'm not sitting here trying to pump these guys up as they're going to be an elite secondary. I don't think they're going to be an elite secondary this year, but are they going to be a capable, game-changing secondary? Yes, I do believe they're going to be guys that make big plays. They're also going to get burnt because, like I said, they're young guys. They're going to fall when they face veteran quarterbacks, veteran receivers, veteran schemers. They're going to get burnt.
Yeah,
Let's not pretend like that's not going to happen.
I want speed and playmaking ability. That's what I want, man.
That's a complimentary thing, though, for this team. Is that when these guys get burnt, the Chiefs are going to have an offense that can pick those guys up and make up for that, and then vice versa. When the Chiefs stumble offensively, I'm hoping these kind of guys, these young dudes, these youthful, exuberant type players, are going to go out there and ball hawk and make an opportunity to get the ball back in their offense's hands so they can make up for it. So there's going to be a lot of complementary style of football for this team, and it ain't going to be so one-sided as we've seen for the majority of Patrick Mahomes' era, where it's, hey, if the Chiefs don't score 35, they're probably going to lose to this offense because this defense can't stop anybody. I think this defense is going to make those types of plays. I just think that you're going to see some growing pains as the season goes on. But by week 8, week 9, and then going into the bye week, I think you're going to see a maturity for this team. And here I am almost making predictions, but I'm just out here just throwing that out there now ahead of time. So in September, when we make our prediction show, you guys will understand why we're feeling the way we're feeling, because of these young guys out here making plays in training camp. They don't look shook. They don't look like the bit moment's too big. You're not seeing that. You're not feeling that. Like I told you, that practice I went out to, guys, the vibe was very calm. It was very collective. You could tell that Andy Reid has this team down pat, and he really understands what he wants to do with this team. There's a goal, there's a mission, and you can tell these young dudes have a mentality of, look, their season ended very abruptly and very frustratingly last year. The Chiefs should have been back in the Super Bowl for a third consecutive year. We're going to make sure that they get back there. I think that's what these young guys are doing, and that's why I feel really good about this team. But if it's cool with you guys, I would like to have some honest conversation about a couple guys, because like I said, as we started the show last week with talking about these young dudes and really focusing on them, we've been doing it a little bit today. I want to have an honest conversation about a couple guys that I'm not so big on this year, and some of them I don't even think are going to make this team. I want to start off first and foremost with Frank Clark. I want to be honest with him because I've been seeing a lot of support for Frank, and I commend that, and I do support Frank Clark as a player and as an individual, as a human being, because I think he's definitely bettered his own personal life, and I want to first and foremost say congratulations to him for getting off alcohol. I've never been somebody that's dealt with alcoholism, so I can't imagine how difficult that is to break that, because I know that that's something that has bound a lot of people in our family. I'm sure in Eddie's family there's been people that have dealt with that, and anybody that's watching or listening to this, I'm sure there's at least one person in your life that's dealt with alcoholism and how difficult that is to break, and for some they can't do it. Some people just cannot break from it, mentally, emotionally, whatever. And Frank Clark's done it to this point, and I'm very proud of him for doing that. And I know that's got to be tough, and you can see that his health is definitely improved. I know he has a stomach ailment that keeps him sometimes from eating a lot of food, and therefore he loses weight. Sometimes it's difficult for him to maintain weight. His walking weight normally is around 265 to 275, which makes him a very big man. It looks right now like he's around 250.
Yeah,
he's
he
very,
looks
very
slim.
light for a pass rusher. And honestly, that does concern me. And I posted a poll this week that got people all in there. They got a lot of emotion out of folks. Some I know, some I don't. And I posed the poll on Twitter and on Facebook that it was a simple question. What do you think is more likely to happen this season? Frank Clark gets 10 or more sacks, or George Karlaftis gets 5 or more sacks? And the reason I posted that question is because I think because of the optimism around Frank Clark as a person, there's optimism around him as a player. And I think that we need to learn to separate the two. I'm not trying to be negative here, but it's great to see a person excel. But that doesn't mean that the success on the football field is going to follow, because that doesn't always mean that's the case. There's a lot of nice guys in the league that aren't very good at football. Matt Castle and Alex Smith were awesome individual guys. Matt Castle was a terrible quarterback, and Alex Smith had a 1-4 record in the playoffs. So we can be real about guys, even though we can acknowledge they're really good people. I think Frank Clark's an awesome dude. I think he's made some mistakes, sure, but he's a family man. He takes care of his shit. Seems to be saving his money pretty well, and he's taking care of his health. That sounds like a good dude to me. I don't know him personally, but that sounds like a good guy. But do I think he's going to have a season where 10 or more sacks like a lot of people are alluding to? I heard Pete Sweeney and a few other guys that are very connected to the team that are expecting that from him, which is the only reason I'm pushing back to this notion. And George Karlaftis is a rookie, and we all know rookie pass rushers usually don't get 5 or more sacks in a season. But people are optimistic about him as well. So I felt it was a very fair question to ask, and I still do to this moment. And I wanted to ask you guys, I wanted to get your personal opinions on this. First of all, what are your expectations from Frank Clark this season? I don't need you to give me like full-fledged predictions, but which one of these scenarios do you think is more likely, and do you think it's a fair question in itself?
I mean, any question coming out of camp, any question is a fair question. It's a comparison question to two different guys that are most likely going to be starting opposite each other. You know, I don't have any problem. It's a realistic scenario. I mean, our expectations from what Frank Clark has given us, you're actually being generous with the number of sacks. If we're all being honest with ourselves, you know, him getting 10 that's setting the bar high for him. You know what I mean? So someone getting
his best season.
That's what I'm saying. So getting, you know, and your feelings about a question or anyone who was upset about it or whatever, I don't know who all it was and everything that went down, but the question when I voted on the poll, and I voted for Karlaftis because on this show, and I've stated it twice now on the show, and I'll say it for a third time, I think he's going to lead this team in sacks. Granted, I will give a caveat. I stated that prediction before Carlos Dunlap made it to this team, and there is a high likelihood that Carlos Dunlap is the sack leader for this team because I think he's going to get a lot of play, and he's shown that he's a sack daddy, and that's what that guy does. He gets 8 to 10 a year, typically. So
6 straight seasons, I believe.
So I mean, if he leads the team in sacks, I'll gladly take that L. But I think Karlaftis has a good chance because he's one of those relentless guys and has a massive chip on his shoulder. I don't think he's your average rookie. He's very primed, I think, ready to go, and that the reports have been helping me double down on that. I think the reports have shown that he's like one of those relentless guys that just does not stop until the whistle's blown to get after that quarterback. And I love hearing that out of camp. So I'm excited about Karlaftis and my prediction there. But as far as the question goes, I mean, there's no way in hell in my mind that Frank Clark's getting 10 sacks this year. And I'm a Frank Clark fan. I am. For not only just his, I still like his game. He's one of the best in the league at still setting the edge, but he's not good at getting to the quarterback, and he's proven that for 3 straight years. Yeah, you got to separate your feelings from the game here, and you know, and be realistic with what the product is. He's good at helping the other guy get to the quarterback because he helps set that edge and help other guys make the play, and that's helpful as well. Everyone plays their part. Everyone's a key cog in their own way. Everyone's a link on the chain. Right, but I don't think he's that guy anymore. Yeah, I don't. Since his Seattle years when he was an absolute dog, getting to the quarterback and wanting to get his bag, but since he's gotten his bag and he's been a part of a Super Bowl winning team, he just has not been the same guy, and we all have to admit that. And I've been a fan of him even in the dark times, even in the times he's been struggling. I've still supported him because he's a Chief for one, and two, I like him. I just do. I've always liked him. I liked his personality. You know, we've been on the struggling side of the things. I mean, we've Yeah, and we're with him. This is a marriage, regardless of if we like it or not. And I do admire the fact that he's changing his life. And I do admire the fact that he's come out and talked about last year was unacceptable for him, according to his standards and what he expects of himself. That's growth. That's improvement, and that is something to get excited about as a fan. To have higher expectations this year, if that's the way he felt, and he believes, you want to believe alongside him that he thinks he can do better, and he will do better. And if he goes out there and gets 10 sacks, I want to be wrong. I will 100% be fine with that. I don't think that's a possibility at this point with Carlos Dunlap being involved now. Possibly getting more snaps this season than Frank Clark. I think that's a high possibility that he's on the field more than Frank Clark even is this year. So with the poll being what it is, I don't have a problem with it at all. I think if you separate your feelings from reality and you just look at the realistic scenario here, I think Karlaftis is going to be on the field 99% of the snaps every week. I think he's going to be a guy that he's the young stallion out there, that a relentless guy. He has a motor. He played damn near every snap in college. He's on the field all the time. He's one of those guys. Why would that not translate to the NFL? Unless he's absolutely abysmal, which I do not expect that at all. I mean, I think Frank Clark is going to help Karlaftis be better and
he already is
more opportunities.
Right. Nature.
So I'm saying that everyone plays their part in defeating. And I just think, and even, I mean, you're not hearing about Frank Clark going into the middle, rotating him around and doing different things. Karlaftis, the rookie, is being moved around and doing different things. That tells you something about the trust they already have in Karlaftis and what he's capable of doing. So I think more movement and more opportunities for Karlaftis to be a playmaker for this team. I think he's going to be that. And I think he's going to have more tackles, and I think he's going to have more sacks than Frank Clark this year.
Sorry. I don't know where all these double-digit sacks reports are coming from. I don't understand them. I think he's only done that once with Seattle, I believe.
It was twice.
Was it twice?
2018 he had 13. I think in 2016 he had 10.
Yeah, so both with Seattle. So we haven't seen that Frank Clark in Kansas City at all.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to bash him. I'm not. But for reporters out there to even state that he's going to get double-digit sacks this season, is setting the bar way too high. I get he hasn't been what we thought he was going to be, so we're giving him, it's like that extra credit. It's like, well, I think this season is going to be different with him, bettering his life, bettering his lifestyle, taking care of himself and all that stuff. So a lot of people are buying the hype, I guess. But like Trevor said, you got to separate reality from whatever that is. We have to accept the fact that Frank Clark has not been that player that we thought he was going to be. Yes, he was a key factor in that playoff run to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, great moments.
I am not going to bash him, but you have to look at the totality of it. We can't just stay. We can't, as Chiefs fans, we can't just stay with that one season. And it wasn't even the whole season. He took off on the playoffs. And us Chiefs fans, we can't just say
we romanticize players for moments.
Yeah, so that moment is what's carried Frank Clark to this that we're in right now. Yeah. Which I don't know why. We have to look at the totality of it. I don't think he's gonna get double-digit sacks this season. Not because this is impossible, because he could go out there and get double-digit sacks. But the amount of competition he has now in his position with Karlaftis coming in, and obviously Spagnuolo is showing how he can use him in very different positions. It's going to be very tough to see Frank Clark starting week 1. I'm not going to say he's not, because we saw it last year. Spagnuolo is kind of like Andy Reid. He's loyal to a fault. We saw it last year with Daniel Sorensen. It took him 6-7 weeks to finally, hey, we're going to bench you. It's time to go with Thornhill out there. So we got to see what's going to happen with the So I don't, like I said, I don't think he'll get double-digit sacks just for the amount of competition. You got Chris Jones, who has help now with Dunlap, who's going to free up Chris Jones now. And we can see that Chris Jones that we saw 2-3 years ago with like there was 9 straight games with sacks. I think it was like a Chiefs record or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't want to I don't want to bash Frank Clark, but at the same time we got to be realistic, and we can't set those kinds of goals for a player who hasn't been anywhere close to that as he's in his Chiefs tenure.
I'll say it this way too. Like, just this is all this is. And listen, and this is not a shot at Frank Clark. I hope he has a great season this year. But this is new season romance. This is a new relationship. We're starting fresh. We're getting back together. You know, there's feelings again. All these things are going on right now. This is this training camp time. Everyone's getting their balls pumped up. Everyone's excited for this season. Everyone wants to see the best Frank Clark that we've seen so far in the red and gold, and I want that too. But like you said, we got to stay grounded sometimes with guys that have shown us the consistency of what they aren't. Right? So he's been consistently not what we expected. That's what I'm kind of expecting right now until he proves otherwise. Just last season, like this is why I said, new season romance. Just last season, who would we rather start consistently, Melvin Ingram or Frank Clark? Everyone's picking Melvin Ingram, right?
No
so
doubt.
why are we not feeling the same way about us bringing Carlos Dunlap, who's been every bit as good, maybe better than Melvin Ingram was when we brought him in? You know what I mean? Numbers wise, he's superior to Melvin Ingram as far as sacks. Granted, they're two different. They played a little different. Melvin Ingram was far more aggressive of a player and more of a demanding presence than Dunlap. Dunlap's more skilled and quick and sly with his style, more technical, which is great, which is what Frank Clark is supposed to be. You're right. So I mean, we just gotta take into consideration the addition of Carlos Dunlap 100 matters, because I think there's a great possibility he becomes the more consistent starter on that right side.
We can actually, if there's any comments about this on our live stream, we can definitely take comments on this if there is any. But I want to just kind of continue this reasoning as to why I'm where I'm at and why I've created the poll and why I've stood where I've stood on Frank Clark for quite some time. I mean, we had Seth Kaiser on from The Athletic a couple months ago, and I had talked to him directly on this show about Frank Clark and the expectations and where the team's at with him and things of that nature. And Seth's very connected. And Seth talked about how the Chiefs still believe the 2018 Frank Clark is still there, whereas he had his career high in sacks, 14. And that was the year previous to the Chiefs signing him. And I do believe that. I do believe there is still that belief in the Chiefs that they can get that out of him. So this is why I think it's fair. Our guy Shaggy Shane actually was the one that really did challenge me on this, and Shag's my guy and I love him. And he said that we all know that Frank Clark is a shell of his former self. Well, I'm not sure if I believe that because I don't think the Chiefs believe that. I think the Chiefs kept him around not just because it was cheaper to keep him around, but because I think they believe that that's still there in him. He's not an old player. He's just now 29 years old.
It's a perfect storm, too, with this being his trying to find his next contract, wherever it may be. If it's here,
so there's a lot of motivating factors for Frank Clark to have himself a great season, and which is why I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility. What I'm saying is that I think it's fair to assess him as a veteran player and hold him to that standard, then hold George Karlaftis to a rookie standard and say which one's more likely. That's where I'm at on this. I think 10 sacks for a player that got paid like Frank Clark and a guy that's done it multiple times in his career, I don't think it's fair to say or ask or pose a question, can he do that, and is that more likely than George Karlaftis, which I bet you right now if we took, I haven't done it myself, but I will do it so I can prove my point. I bet if we took, for the last 10 plus years of first round edge rushers and averaged out their sack totals their rookie year, I guarantee it's around 5. Because that TJ Watt, who might be the best pass rusher in football, his rookie season had 7. Micah Parsons, who's another one. I think he had a great season, though, so he's one of the few that excelled. Myles Garrett, same thing. Those guys, they're just a different breed. My point, though, is on an average basis, some even the best in the world, their rookie season, it wasn't as impressive. In that second, third, and fourth years, they just took off because they learned the game. They got better. They excelled. They grew into their man bodies because most of these guys are 21, 22 years old. They're growing into their male bodies. So for me to sit here and say, it's possible that George Karlaftis is more likely to reach that 5 mark than Frank Clark. It isn't an indictment so much on Frank Clark. It's more of, I have belief in George Karlaftis, and quite frankly, I haven't seen enough from Frank Clark to say that I can definitively believe it's more likely he does it. It isn't because he's a shell of himself, because I don't believe he's a shell of himself. I still think he's himself. And I think that he benefited off a lot of things in Seattle in the times he was there, because back when he played there, they still had some really good players around him. They had KJ Wright, they had Wagner, they still had the outskirts of Sherman, they still had Chancellor, they had Earl Thomas. They still had great players around him with Pete Carroll's system in place. Yeah. So I want to see Frank Clark take it to the next level, because like you said, Trevor, I would love to be wrong about this. Yeah. If Frank Clark has himself a career year or something close to it, are the Chiefs not the Super Bowl favorites out of the AFC?
The Chiefs. Yeah.
Because you're talking about a team, the last time we had Frank Clark, who just had 8 sacks in 2019, who made insane strides for the Chiefs in the playoffs. I mean, my God, in just his first playoff game with the Chiefs against the Texans, he had 3 sacks in that game. And then went on to have an excellent 2 more games against the Titans and the San Francisco 49ers. But since then, guys, he's played in, since that run, the Super Bowl run, the Chiefs have played in 6 playoff games. He has 3 sacks. Yeah. And none were last season when the Chiefs had 3 playoff games. He had no sacks in the playoffs last year. And in 43 regular season games, he has 18.5. He finished 90th in sacks last year for a guy that was making $1.4 million per game. So it's not unfair to criticize him, but it's also not unfair to sit here and say, I refuse to believe he's a shell of himself. I just believe this is who he is, and we can critique him accordingly.
What if we rephrase that question just to kind of say is like, what is more likely to happen? Frank Clark to get 5 sacks or Karlaftis getting 5 sacks?
Yeah.
I think that's more of a fair question. Not trying to knock Frank Clark again.
If anything, it's not fair to Karlaftis to have expectations of 5 sacks, because that's a rarity amongst itself with rookie defensive linemen. That doesn't even happen.
So so I think that would be a better question to ask. Will Frank Clark get 5 sacks, or would Karlaftis get 5 sacks? I think that's more of a better question. That brings a better, I think, a better argument to Frank Clark.
That seems more offensive to Frank Clark.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If that's the case, then what you're saying is the standard is the same for George Karlaftis as is Frank Clark, and we both know that's not the case. Yep. Because George Karlaftis is not here right now to carry the defense or to be a key role in his rookie season. Frank Clark has been in this league now for 8 seasons.
Yeah.
He is a veteran. He is a guy that it's no different than to say, oh, well, Sky Moore better have the same amount of yards, receptions, and touchdowns as Juju Smith-Schuster. That's not the expectation,
right? Because
he's a rookie player learning his way into this league, whereas Juju's been in the league now for 5-6 years. He's expected to come in day one and contribute. Sky Moore's not.
One of the comments says Ingram had 1 sack the whole time he was here in KC. It's not like Ingram was dominant while he was here. He helped the team, but wasn't great.
Oh yeah, that's the thing, is that sacks. I agree, sacks are a big thing to talk about, and I just broke that down, so I'm not going to sit here and try to dismiss that. He is right about whoever it was that spoke on that. But Melvin Ingram, in the games he did play, had more sacks than Frank Clark in that span, and had more quarterback pressures.
Yep.
So the point Trevor was making about bringing up Ingram is the fact that you saw. Our guy Shaggy Shane, to that point, said that Ingram was the MVP of our defense since the day he came there, and there's facts to back that up.
You saw the difference.
You saw the difference in the way the defense played.
I love that. I love that comment, because that helps my point. He had 1 sack, right? But we all know, whoever the commenter is, and whoever had eyeballs was watching the Chiefs defense and what he brought to the Chiefs defense, that you would still want to start him over Frank Clark, and he had 1 sack, and that was 1 sack more than Frank Clark had in that same duration.
Yeah, because once Melvin Ingram came into this defense, it kind of freed up Chris Jones a little bit more, and Chris Jones was allowed to put that pressure into the quarter. Yes, he didn't get the sacks that he should have, but because he was pretty much by himself pressuring the quarterback. So obviously some quarterbacks are quick; they're gonna outrun Chris Jones, but when Ingram was here, he did help kind of liberate Chris Jones to do a lot more and create a lot more pressure.
Real quick, I don't know if anybody remembers this one, but remember that one really frustrating game at the very end of the season against the Denver Broncos when Drew Lock looked like white Michael Vick out there? And you guys remember the play in the red zone when the Broncos were about to take the lead and ultimately win the game? Who forced the fumble against, what's his name, the rookie running back for...
That would be...
Ingrid.
Oh, no, you're talking about...
The rookie running back,
yeah.
Devontae Williams?
Yeah.
Devontae Williams.
Yep.
Who forced that fumble?
He was eating us alive the entire game, too.
Nick Bolton ended up running back like 75, 80 yards.
Yes.
Who was it? Melvin Ingram.
Yeah, that was
so
such a good play.
that was the key play because if the Chiefs lose that game,
Save the game.
They don't get
seed.
they get they would get the third seed. I think we
Yeah.
got the 2 seed last season. They would have gotten the 3rd seed, which means they would have had to go on the road week 1.
Yeah.
So we not week 1, but they would have had a road. They would have had a road. They had to go on the road in
Yeah.
the playoffs if they excelled. If they
And we kept the
advanced.
streak alive against the Broncos.
And they would have had a much tougher road because, as we all know, the Chiefs ended up getting the Steelers, as our guy Nick Reigel had to call them, better than a bye. That would not have happened.
Yeah.
And Melvin Ingram was making plays. Name me a single play last season, or I won't even do that unfair. Just go the last half of the season when Melvin Ingram came in. Name me the plays that Frank Clark made that made game-changing plays, or that changed the trajectory of games. You can't.
Well,
He didn't have a good season.
If we were so dependent on Frank Clark and we all believed in him and the Chiefs believed in him, why were we trying to get Melvin Ingram twice in one season? We tried getting him twice.
Right.
You know, he chose to go elsewhere at the beginning, but when that didn't work out, we were right there on the phone with him, getting him over here again. Like that shows you why are we bringing Carlos Dunlap here? You know what I mean? Why are we bringing in help? Why did we draft Karlaftis to get him where we got him? Why did we move up to get him?
Right.
You know what I mean? So we obviously know that there's a need here. And look, I'm rooting for Frank Clark. I'm gonna be cheering the dude's name anytime he makes a play. I've never been off the wagon to him. I've always believed in his skill set because I know who he is and what he's capable of. But since he's been here, he has not been that guy. He just hasn't. He's had great moments and big moments at the biggest times. But consistency is key on the defensive line, man, especially on the edge. You got to have someone who's consistent, and it can't be consistent. He's been far more consistently bad than he has been good. And we need to see an improvement. And look, and all this being said, with the comparison between him and Karlaftis, I hope they both play off each other well. I hope Carlos Dunlap comes in here, does what we expect him to do, and be a guy that gets after quarterbacks and does it well and does it efficiently. I hope all these guys can get together and make some music defensively.
I want to swing over to the offensive side because there's a couple guys I really want to have an honest conversation about as well. One of the guys is somebody that has expectations this season, moving in as a first-year player with the Chiefs. He's a wide receiver from Green Bay, and it's MVS. I know this is a guy Trevor was very big on moving in. I'm sure Trevor still feels the same way. I have not been somebody that's been big on MVS because I feel like we are, like when I talk about Frank Clark not being a shell of himself, just being more of who he is. I think that's the same case with MVS. He's a very talented receiver, very long, very strong receiver. The problem with MVS has always been one thing. He drops a lot of passes. Mm-hmm. And if we all know, he's played with one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, and Aaron Rodgers.
And health issues, he's struggled with.
He's had health issues too. Yeah, sure. But I'm saying when he's been on the field, the issues he's had has been not catching the ball. Mm-hmm. In fact, MVS has 247 career targets and has 15 drops.
Yep.
That's a lot for that small amount of targets. That's not a good percentage at all. He did not, in fairness, he did not have a single drop last season, but he also had a very bottom tier targets and receptions last season. He only had 38 receptions last season.
Not a lot of volume.
So he was, to be honest with you guys, he was a McCole Hardman light last season. He was not utilized a lot in that Packers offense, and I think that speaks volumes of the trust issues that Aaron Rodgers did have with MVS for the majority of their tenure together. Moving over to Kansas City, I can understand the hype and the excitement and the jubilation, what have you, coming from a guy with the Packers coming to Kansas City. We saw a lot of games with him and Aaron Rodgers, and you think that you plug and play, and all of a sudden he's going to become a next step player. Well, my problem with that is a couple things. One, the oversaturation of talent the Chiefs have at wide receiver. I know that sounds crazy when you lose Tyreek Hill in the same offseason, but there is an oversaturation because I think we all have expectations for Sky Moore. I think we all know that Juju Smith-Schuster is the surefire wide receiver one on this team, and if you've watched training camp at any length of time, you've seen that Patrick Mahomes and Juju Smith-Schuster are going to have a great connection this year, and I think if and when Juju has a big year this year, the Chiefs are going to extend him, and he's going to be here for a few more years.
100%. The
point, though, I'm making, though, is that McCole Hardman knows that his role in this offense is to still go out there and make those gritty plays and go out there and get the jet sweeps. You want to call them gimmicky plays, even though he's been out there making big plays in training camp downfield. there is going to be still a limited opportunity for MVS to be big this year for the Chiefs. And we've seen in training camp over the last few days in particular, he's been dropping the ball literally and figuratively because the opportunities are going to be there. But if we know anything about Andy Reid, if you're not making the plays, you're going to sit on the bench. And the Chiefs didn't pay MVS a ton of money. I wasn't big on, I think it was like $18 million total guaranteed over a 3-year contract, and the first 2 years are guaranteed. But I think that even with that said, I think if MVS isn't out here making plays and making plays immediately, you will start to see him slide a little bit in the snaps and the abilities to make those plays because I think the Chiefs knew what they were getting out of MVS. A very talented, long stretch kind of guy that can go and get you a big 70, 80-yard touchdown, which will happen.
He's going to be hot and cold.
There will be a couple plays like that this season where he goes out there and gets you an 85-yard touchdown. Like, holy shit, that was awesome. But I hope everybody out there is honing in their expectations of MVS. He will not, mark my words, he will not be a 1,000-yard receiver for the Chiefs. No. He will not be a double-digit touchdown guy for the Chiefs. There are too many mouths to feed that are better, more reliable players, and he is who he is. Could he have a career year? Yeah. But that's like 50 receptions for 730 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's a career year for MVS. That is what
I'll take that.
That is what you should hope for.
Yeah.
What you should be expecting is more of the same. 35 to 45 receptions for 550 yards and 3 touchdowns. Can that help the Chiefs get back to a Super Bowl? Yes. But what I want to focus on the most is MVS being a sure-handed receiver. If he can be sure-handed, the opportunities will continue to grow for him. I'm not expecting anything different than what we saw of the previous 3 to 4 years in Green Bay, and I think that's fair to say. What is your thoughts, Trevor?
I don't think that's fair to say. I think with more opportunity comes more, chances to make plays. And I think he's going to have more opportunities in this offense. I think he's going to get fed more in this offense. I think he's going to be the wide receiver too at times. I think him and McCole Hardman, obviously McCole has earned that and is going to be the primary second option in the pass game most of the time, I think. But I still think McCole is going to be that trick play kind of guy a lot of times too, the in route kind of guy, the little shuffle passes and things like that. I think there's going to be a lot of that to McCole a lot this year just because with his experience in this offense. But I think MVS I think he's still going to be a fan favorite this year. I think he's going to make a lot of big electric plays that's going to just stick in people's minds. Similar to how McCole was in his first couple seasons. He made he didn't have a lot of yards or he didn't have a lot of opportunity. He wasn't getting funneled targets, but he was making the most of those plays. Right, he was getting a lot of touchdowns, a lot of big plays. I think that's how similarly. I think that's how MVS is going to be played with this year. I don't think he's going to have a ton of volume again, but I think he's going to be on the field a lot. I think he's going to have a lot of big plays this year. 6-7 touchdowns works for me. 6, maybe the max being 8 or 9. But yeah, I definitely don't think he's going to have 1,000 yards, but I do think he's going to rack up yards in big chunk plays. Though I think he's going to have a couple. I'd say 3 or 4 really big games. And I think those kind of games are going to make him become a fan favorite this season. I still, regardless of where he ends up as far as the ranks and numbers go in this receiving room, he may be 3rd or 4th on the pecking order there, and as far as who ranks out at the end of the year. But I think his moments are going to be big, and I think he's going to make big plays and big moments and big games against in this tough schedule. I think there's going to be really big heroics on his end. We could talk about the drops, and that is a concern for sure if anybody. And he's not going to be if he's not a volume guy and he's dealing with drops, like Tyreek dealing with drops a couple times in a year. That's one thing because Tyreek's getting damn near he's pushing 200 targets in a season. You're going to have more drops than the most because it's just the volume alone. But if he's a low volume guy and he's not making big plays and he's dropping the ball, Andy Reid is going to sit his ass down. We just know that, and I don't want him on the field either if that's the case. But I am very optimistic about him in this offense. We early on in camp, everyone was hooting and hollering his name because he was making big plays and he was burning guys and he was catching short slants and taking them to the crib too. Because I think we need to understand this guy is capable of big plays. It's damn near as much as anybody in this league because he's tall and he's very fast. So I think utilizing that, and Patrick hasn't really had that since he's been a quarterback for this team. He hasn't had a tall, fast guy. D-Rob is maybe the tallest, fastest as far as height and speed goes together. But D-Rob just wasn't really skilled that much. I mean, he had huge moments, even in that Raiders game. Remember, D-Rob had 3 touchdowns in that one Raiders game, and he absolutely went nuclear. That was a fun moment. I think MVS is going to have moments like that and more because I think he's that much more better than D-Rob is. So, I'm not saying he's going to be a 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown guy. That never was an expectation of mine. Especially with the emergence of Sky Moore. And I think as the season goes on, Sky Moore is going to keep inching his way into the, being that third option in this offense. But I think there's going to be some really, really big clutch moments and big moments and multiple touchdown games for MVS, and people are going to go nuts over him and immortalize him in this offense, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I've been hearing nothing but good things out of training camp, other than him having some, drop balls. But I think at practice, that doesn't scare me as much because it's, practice trying to, see how Patrick Mahomes throws the ball, kind of get adjusted to that. Obviously, going from Aaron Rodgers to Patrick Mahomes, there's really no big difference because they're both great. They're both fucking amazing quarterbacks. But yeah, just it's practice. You talk about practice, man. So. I don't think he's gonna have over 1,000-yard season, over 10 touchdowns. I don't see that, for the simple fact that we've seen what MVS has done with Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, out in Green Bay, it was either Devontae Adams or nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and this is a better offense.
This is a better offense, and because we're gonna actually utilize them, I think, a little bit more than Green Bay was, because how this offense has to adjust without Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. So I think that adjustment is going to help MVS, get those yards after catch. I think that's going to be one of the crucial. That's where he's going to rack up those yards. I don't think he's gonna have those Tyreek Hill kind of explosive plays.
6'4" too. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like you can high point a ball. He can go.
Yeah, he could potentially be a great red zone threat because of his size.
For sure.
So I think he'll be utilized a lot more in those quick routes and in the red zone, where obviously we need that kind of what we were hoping Josh Gordon could be. That could be MVS to this offense, especially the way that we have to adjust, like I said, to to life after Tyreek Hill. Yeah. So we're gonna have to look for those quick plays, and I think that's gonna benefit him a lot more. I just don't see over 1,000 yards. That's being way too generous for somebody that we haven't seen in this Andy Reid system, especially trying to memorize Andy Reid's offense. So we just gotta wait and see.
I will say, just to interject real quick, I will say there are a few things that are actual concerns in training camp. Drops are one of those things that are a concern, though. As a receiver, that is your number one objective, is to catch the ball that is thrown your way. So if it's becoming a trend and you're dropping too many balls in camp, that's a problem. That is a concern. So I think we do need to keep an eye on that. I think obviously Andy Reid and the coaches are keeping an eye on that. If it's a consistent thing, if he's running the wrong route or something, that's something you can learn. He's still part of this. The offense is new to him. This is a whole different thing. He's going to get more attention in this offense probably than he was in Green Bay, because Green Bay throws the running backs and Devontae Adams more than anyone else. It's like 90% of the targets are running backs and Devontae Adams in that offense. So he's going to get more work and more targets in this offense, I believe, and it's going to spread the ball around more. But if you're dropping the ball in practice too frequently, that is a concern.
I mean, I get your point. But this is kind of like, saying like when Patrick Mahomes, training camp, a lot of interceptions. Last season, what was the big story out of training camp? Interceptions. The year before that, interceptions. When the season goes on, Patrick Mahomes, he's a different beast. You know what I mean? If they drop balls on practice, it doesn't worry me as much, because obviously practice you're adjusting to a different play or something like that. You're adjusting to maybe a new throw that Patrick Mahomes hasn't done, that sidearm or something like that.
Behind the back.
Yeah. So I'm not too concerned about it, for the simple fact, like, I don't know, it's practice.
Only thing I'll push back on that is the fact that, because to your point about the different throws and things of that nature on Patrick, it actually benefits the narrative of him throwing the interceptions, because of the fact the majority of the time when Patrick is throwing interceptions, if you look, a lot of times it's, first of all, the defense knows what plays are going down, because they literally know. They have every idea of where guys are going to be. Two, Patrick is trying things out. So he's like, let me try to force this ball in here. Let me experiment with this, because interceptions there's no price to pay. When it comes to drops, a lot of times the drops you're seeing are contextualized because they're balls that are dropped in a bucket 40 yards downfield that we've seen from MVS. For instance, the last 2 drops we'd seen him in practice just yesterday were drops that the ball was put beautifully in his hands.
Yeah.
That is a cause for concern, because if it was something where Patrick faked him out with a no-look that was 5 yards, a little piss rocket 5 yards away, and he's like, oh, shit, okay, I'm not going to knock him for that. But if it's a ball running downfield in stride and it goes right through your hands, that is something I'm going to be concerned about. Now, I do want to push back, Trev, because you did start off your take with the idea that MVS will actually produce at a higher level here than he did in Green Bay. The reason I'm going to push back is because of the fact, throw the drops aside, it's the availability aspect of it all. Because you look at, yes, Juju Smith-Schuster is not Tyreek Hill and will never be Tyreek Hill, but Juju is still a proven wide receiver 1 in this league in my eyes. And at worst, a top-tier wide receiver 2, at worst. So he's going to get fed. We're also neglecting the fact that Travis Kelce is the highest producing tight end of all time, so he's going to get fed exponentially, right? He's the most trusted commodity that Patrick Mahomes ever had in his career. And we look at third-party members. We look at the third wheel here. And we saw when Patrick Mahomes took over, the Chiefs went and spent big money on Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins, to me, is a better receiver than MVS for the totality of his career. He's been more productive. He's a more skilled player in my eyes. Yeah. But Sammy Watkins also had some of the same issues that MVS has had as far as health is concerned. He's missed games. In fact, he's missed more games than MVS. So I'll give MVS credit on that one. But from 2018 to 2020, Sammy Watkins was here in Kansas City. He averaged 11 games, which is not a lot. Even with a 16-game schedule, that's still not a lot. But he averaged 42 receptions for 538 yards and 3 touchdowns per season. With MVS in Green Bay, with even fewer people to feed, it was literally just Davante Adams. He was the only proven receiver on that team. Allen Lazard wasn't a legitimate guy. He was a good player, but not a great player. He was a role player at best. MVS was the wide receiver 2 for the majority of his Green Bay career. He was.
He wasn't, as far as target share. He was like 4th on the team in target share because
that's the point I'm making,
backs.
is that Green Bay only had one proven target guy, and MVS still wasn't the wide receiver 2 for the majority of his career in Green Bay. And in 15 games per season from 2018 to 2021, he averaged 31 receptions, which is 11 fewer than Sammy Watkins as the third fiddle on this team.
It's not the same offense,
though. The exact same amount of yards per game or per season with 538, and the exact same amount of touchdowns with 3. So what I'm saying is that the Packers, with Aaron Rodgers, the back-to-back MVP and one of the greatest...
It's not the same offense, though.
I get it, but I'm talking about production. That is the third best player, the third receiving option in this offense, which he will be at best. He will not be putting up 1,000 yards. He will not be putting up big touchdowns. I don't think he's going to have a career year because of the fact there's other guys to be fed. Sky Moore emerging. The running backs like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we've been talking about, is going to get more passes and more opportunities out of the backfield. It's hard for me to imagine that MVS is all of a sudden going to take away the 4 years he had in Green Bay. New offense, difference doesn't matter. The fact is he wasn't producing when there was only one proven commodity to throw to in Green Bay. Then he could be the third or fourth option here and he's going to put up record numbers or career numbers. I don't see it.
Again, it's a different offense. And you didn't actually continue my whole point, though. I even said at the end of the season, if he's like 4th or 5th on the pecking order as far as stats go, I'm talking about him going to be remembered for moments, and I think he's going to have a lot of big plays. I'm not going to say he's going to be like a consistent target fiend. That's not what I'm saying. I don't believe that either. I think he's going to be, the third receiver on this team, sometimes 4th, depending on where Sky Moore develops in the middle of the season or whatever, if he becomes that guy. Hopefully he does. I'm just saying at the end of the day, I think there's going to be a lot of big moments and big games against this tough schedule where MVS is going to shine and have those big moments, and we win in like a very exciting fashion. I think MVS is going to be at the end of a lot of those plays. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's going to be I think his numbers, I think in this offense it's going to be a little different than Green Bay, because I watch most of Green Bay's games. If I'm not watching Chiefs game, I'm typically watching Aaron Rodgers. Everyone knows where Aaron Rodgers is going with the ball. It's a very vanilla offense. It's exciting at times because they had a great number 1 receiver in Davante Adams, but he threw to the running backs half of the time. If he wasn't throwing to Davante Adams, he was throwing to the running backs. You know what I mean? They don't have a lot of... Aaron Rodgers doesn't typically have a dominant number 2 receiver on his teams. He just doesn't. Even in the days when he had a white boy...
Jordy Nelson.
He had Randall Cobb, but Randall Cobb
Greg Jennings?
Greg Jennings was the guy before
I mean, they were on the same time. He got drafted in, 07,
But Greg
08?
Jennings was the number one at that time before Jordy became the guy, because Greg Jennings was on his way out. Then that's when Jordy's numbers went out the roof.
I mean, Donald Driver was there. I mean, they had Jordy Nelson, like you said. They had, what's his name?
Those were all different times,
Bubba
though.
Franks was earlier on.
They weren't all thriving at the same time.
Jermichael Finley. I don't know, man. Greg Jennings and Jordy Nelson played together for like 7 years. They played together for quite a while. And Randall Cobb, like you said, who was a fantasy
Well, it's because he was racking up receptions over the middle all day long.
That was with Jordy Nelson and Greg Jennings still very much intact.
But that Randall Cobb role is now the running backs in that offense, is what I'm saying. He didn't throw the running backs that often back then. They had a couple big banger running backs, Eddie Lacy and guys like that weren't really great receiving backs. Now that he's had guys like Aaron Jones and other guys like that have been primary pass catching backs, that's how that offense has kind of become.
I get what you're saying about the big play thing. I'm just saying that I think that when you have a guy that over a 4-year span with one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever live is putting up numbers that McCole Hardman absolutely destroys in his career.
Sure.
I have
because
a hard
he's in a better offense.
I like the idea that he can make big plays. My point, though, is in those big moments, I don't know if I have the confidence that his hands are going to be reliable.
Think about it. It's really simple math.
What big plays did he make in Green Bay?
It's really simple math, though, if you look at, because I'm not going to compare him in Green Bay to what he could possibly do in Kansas City. That's just not fair, because it's an entirely different offense.
We just did a whole thing with Frank Clark, though, in Seattle to Kansas City. How can you not compare? That's the only thing we can go off
That's different, though, because his role in Seattle, he was the starting defensive end. Your goal is to get up to quarterback, and he did that great in Seattle. He hasn't done that great in Kansas City. That's a simple transition. I'm saying offense is way more.
But why should I be more optimistic about MVS when he wasn't? You know what I'm saying? Like on the flip of Frank
offense
Clark.
is far more different, though. You're utilized way differently. Frank Clark, his one goal, his one mission every single week is to get after quarterbacks.
But you just said MVS's one goal this year is make big plays because he's not going to put up big numbers. That's why I was talking about the reliability
It's
factor.
a different quarterback and a different offense. That changes everything.
But Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are very comparable.
No, but the offenses are different, bro. You know that.
The
offenses are very different.
I get that.
Okay, if you get that, this is what my point
is. But the defensive schemes in Frank Clark in Seattle and Kansas City are different,
too. We're missing the dynamic of Tyreek Hill in this offense now. He is completely gone. You know how much that opens up target-wise, opportunity-wise?
Not when you have Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, and McCole Hardman in play.
I'm talking about the dynamic of like speed and big plays, right? That open, and now McCole slides into maybe more of that Tyreek slot, like because Tyreek played a lot of the slot and was getting a lot of dink and dunk plays last year, and we expect his speed to take over and make big plays. I think McCole's going to get a lot of that, a lot of his fair share of that. I think with Juju, he's not going to be that big play guy all the time. I think he's going to be more of a Sammy Watkins, but like on steroids. He's going to be more that prototypical wide receiver one role, which I love. He's not going to be the 9-route deep shot guy all the time. I think, like I said, I compare like the second year of McCole Hardman when he had like 10 or 11 touchdowns.
No, he's never had double digits. The most he ever had was actually his rookie season was 6.
Okay, well, yeah. I think he's going to be pushing 7 or 8 touchdowns this year in MVS. I think he's going to have. I don't know. I'm not making my predictions yet, but I'm talking more about moments, and I think he's going to have more opportunity to have big moments in this offense because I think with Tyreek being gone, there's a lot more opportunity to have him having those dynamic plays that Tyreek would have, deep shots and things like that, red zone with his height and his speed ability, and he is a good route runner, like he is. He's good up the middle as well, seam routes. I think we're going to see some exciting moments from MVS this year, and I've said it from the beginning when we first got him. I think a lot of Chiefs fans very quickly are going to be MVS fans, and I'm sticking to that. I think he's going to have big moments, and I think this offense is definitely different for him opportunity-wise to thrive and have big moments. I'm not saying he's going to be, the true number 3, maybe push McCole for that number 2. That's not even what I'm saying at all. I think he can be 4th or 5th on the pecking order once it comes down to stats at the end of the year. That's a possibility, but I think moments, big games, big touchdowns, heroics, things like that. I think there's going to be some big plays, connections between.
If the 3rd or 4th option is going to get 7 or 8 touchdowns like you're predicting, then Patrick's going to throw for 55 touchdowns this year because that's a lot of touchdowns to go around.
It's not like he couldn't do that.
I'm just saying, like you would be basically projecting a career year for Patrick Mahomes then because the math would just because you have to think.
Oh yeah, he's going to throw touchdowns.
Juju's going to have anywhere from 5 to 10. Travis is going to have anywhere from 5 to 12. You start doing that math, and Clyde gets a couple touchdown catches. Sky Moore gets a couple, maybe a Pacheco. Like all of a sudden, or Jody Fortson.
Yeah.
These random like Blake Bell touchdowns here and there. These random Noah Gray touchdowns here and there, and a blowout. Things like that. Like you start looking at that, all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes is going to start having 48 to 55 touchdowns.
I think this offense is going to function differently. Yeah. I think this year. I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity. A lot more ways we can disguise and mix things up because not everyone's so focused on Tyreek Hill. It gives other guys opportunities to make a name for themselves, and I think why not MVS?
Well, and there's one more guy I want to have an honest conversation about, and then we can move to the Eddie Hour. It's a guy that is very popular based on what he once was, and it's Josh Gordon. I want to have an honest conversation with him, and hopefully our guy Jason Dunn from Chief Concerns and the former Chief Great himself, Jason Dunn, doesn't hear this part of it, because him and I, we didn't have a debate by any means, but he did react to a tweet I had a couple days ago about how I do truly believe Josh Gordon's days are numbered here in Kansas City, because of the fact that I believe there are guys that play more of a pivotal, more valuable role at the wide receiver position, because we do know that Dave Toub has a lot to say on how this roster is built, because a lot of the players that make this roster that are fringe players are special teams guys, and they want to have players that can go out there and make plays on special teams. We know that's what Darius Fountain and Cornell Powell, guys like that, are. If they're going to make this team, it's going to be because of special teams. We saw guys like Marcus Kemp for years make this roster, not because he was an awesome wide receiver, but because he could play really good special teams.
Good gunner.
And I think guys like Darius Fountain. Now there is the report that Darius Fountain did have a hamstring injury. So there is was a hamstring or groin? I think it might have been a groin injury. I'm sorry.
He was at practice today, I believe.
He may have been there at practice today. So if Darius Fountain's healthy, Darius Fountain's making this roster.
I like that guy, man.
Cornell Powell has made strides. I'm not saying he's going to be a guy that makes a lot of offensive snaps, but Cornell can very well be a pivotal player on the special teams, and we've heard Dave Toub mention him in person. And if we know anything, when Dave Toub mentions you by person, you usually always make this roster.
Yeah.
So that leaves, because I think the Chiefs are going to keep 6 receivers at most. That's being optimistic. More realistically, it'll probably be 5 receivers they keep on this roster, and they have 4 tight ends, 3 running backs, and then they open that up for depth at offensive line and other places. I don't see a scenario in how Josh Gordon makes this team unless there's injuries. I really don't. And it's not even just the fact that in 12 regular season games with the Chiefs, he has 5 receptions for only 32 yards and a touchdown. And that touchdown was just kind of like a forced, like nice little goal throw, to get him a touchdown. He's not a special teams player.
Yeah.
He's 31 years old. I don't see where he fits, because we all know the reason why the Chiefs went and signed him this last year was because he was a big physical receiver, and we knew the Chiefs didn't have any of that. Outside of Travis Kelce, there was no, Jody Fortson goes down early in the year. The Chiefs were looking for that big-bodied presence. Well, now the Chiefs have multiple guys like that. Juju Smith-Schuster, who's an over 200-pound receiver, who's over 6 foot tall. You have, obviously, MVS, like you mentioned, Trevor, who's 6'4", big, strong, physical receiver as well. There's not really that need anymore. And Jody Fortson's back as a tight end. Blake Bell, who's 6'6", Noah Gray, who's 6'5". Like, there's not a lot of need for a big physical guy anymore with Josh Gordon. And quite frankly, even when he was given opportunity, he was unreliable hands-wise as well. There's multiple times he got drop passes on the limited targets he had already gotten.
Yeah.
Guys, I know he had a good practice today. We'd heard that report. He's been getting looks and things of that nature. I don't know if I really am swayed, though, by that. I think that this preseason is going to say a lot. If Josh Gordon goes out there in the preseason and plays really well, I can see the Chiefs etching him in. But if he doesn't have any big plays or shows off anything impressive in game scenarios, I almost feel like it's counterproductive to keep him on the team at this point. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. I don't really have an expansive thought or mentality on this whole situation. I think this is very simplistic because, again, at the highest, most optimistic standpoint with Josh Gordon, he's a special teams player.
Yeah.
He's not a guy that's going to go out there and contribute production-wise offensively. So where does he really belong? I don't think he's going to make the team. I know our guy, Jason Dunn's very big on him. I'm big on him. I've been rooting for him. Yeah. I just don't see it. What are your thoughts?
I'm a big Josh Gordon fan. I've always rooted for the guy. I thought he was treated poorly in this league with his issues he was dealing with. Granted, we can all have our opinions on substances and abuses of substances. But as far as his skill set goes in his personal play, he definitely looked like he lost a step last year. Granted, he was coming into he was cold, coming into this team last year. And I was excited just because I love Josh Gordon, and just seeing him in a Chiefs uniform was just fun for me. And it was just I was excited to see what could possibly be there. This season, it's been even more quiet than last season was with the hype around him. There's been nothing around him, really. I heard his name the first time today from camp. Like, this is the first time I've really heard Josh Gordon's name mentioned and having a fairly so-so camp, even hearing anything about him. So it was good to hear that today. Good to hear that he's getting action and he was doing well in the 7-on-7s today. But, yeah, man, outside of him being maybe an insurance for MVS or an insurance for, anybody getting hurt, like you said, I don't know. I don't know what his role would be. I don't know. I mean, we brought MVS over here for a reason. That definitely hurts the opportunity for Josh Gordon to be whatever we think he's going to be. I know Andy Reid believes in him. I know Andy Reid brought him over for a reason. He's a fan of him as well. I don't know, man. Definitely don't want to see him on special teams. I don't think he has that kind of athleticism anymore. Nor do I want to see him getting hurt on an, being a gunner or something on a special teams play. I just don't. I don't think we want to see Josh Gordon in that situation. I don't think that's ever really been who he is. He is still a freak athlete. He's still a big guy. He's still a dominating, a demanding presence. He's still huge, and he's still shredded out of his mind. The guy looks the part for sure. But we just haven't seen it, I love him to death, but we just haven't seen it. He didn't look good last year. He dropped a couple balls that were easy catches in my mind. It should have been. Had that one touchdown, but that was, like you said, just a kind of a goal line, quick little out, quick slant to him, and he just walked into the end zone. It wasn't very exciting. I was very happy for him, and I expected a lot more last year when he came here. I thought there was a lot of hype, and there was no fire or that smoke, unfortunately. So I don't know. And there's been no smoke at all this offseason, this camp. There's been nothing really storyline and no headlines for Josh Gordon outside of his name right now. And if I'm a betting man, unfortunately, I'm going to have to say I would be putting my money on him not being on this team, at least not the active roster, maybe on the practice squad, if any, like as an insurance guy for an injury. But outside of that, it's looking pretty grim for Josh Gordon, if I'm being 100% honest with myself.
Yeah, it's the same. It's not that he doesn't have a fit in this team. It's just we're so stacked in that position that guaranteeing him a spot it's pretty hard. Yeah. I do think he might obviously he's going to get cut before he joins the practice squad, because I think that's what they have to do before you sign anybody to your practice. I do think another team might pick him up once he gets cut, because I do think I think he will be cut when obviously the cuts have to be made. And I do think another team's going to pick him up. Another team that needs help at the receiver position. The Jets could potentially be one of those teams that might be interested in bringing Josh Gordon and kind of helping their quarterback with that situation, because they literally have nobody.
So you don't think he'd clear waivers if he gets cut? I don't know. You'd have to be a desperate team right now to go and aggressively go after Josh Gordon. I'm just being honest.
No. And
no one wanted him last year. We brought him in. Everyone's like, oh yeah, he's still in the league.
And I mean, the Jets are. I would say the Jets are probably the only team that's literally desperate for a receiver, because I honestly could not name you one of their.
They have a lot of young talent on receiver.
Yeah, they got Garrett Wilson out of the draft. I mean, they got what's his name.
They have a lot of
what's his name? Not AJ Brown. They got two tight ends too this offseason too.
And they're a rebuilding team.
Even the Jets.
I'm not saying he will clear waivers or anything like that, or he won't. I'm just saying that there could potentially be could potentially be another team out there that could want to bring Josh Gordon.
I think it's the Cowboys. I'm being serious. I think that's the type of team that
we give him a try. You know what I mean? And I wish him nothing but the best on that.
Yeah.
If it does happen, I just don't see him in this team unless, like you said, there's too many injuries in the receiver position. It's just so hard for me to say, yes, he has a spot in this team.
Because I'm open-minded to it. I just don't know where it's at. That's all I'm saying. So we'll leave it there because, like I said, I don't think that we need to really dive deep on a guy that's a fringe player at best. But this is the time of year where we like to discuss and break down and dive deep into these things. So it's something worth mentioning at least. Yeah. And it's a guy that's very beloved here in Kansas City, and quite frankly across the league, because people want to see a redemption story, and I'm always open for that as well. Still am. We're going to leave it all there. If you guys have any comments about that, definitely hit us up on the live stream. But I would like in particular to hit us up on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You can comment on there, as we're also doing live as well, or anytime throughout the week of any episode whatsoever. But we're going to move on to the Eddie Hour. We haven't had that in a couple weeks, even last week, because we had so much going on with camp, and it was just a chaotic week, but we're back at it. So, Eddie, what do you have in the Eddie Hour this week for us?
Not much. Nah. I want to go to UFC last weekend. Obviously, we had a pay-per-view event, two championship fights, one for the interim flyweight, and then the other one for the bantamweight in the women's division. Great fights, great championship fights. But I want to start off with the Derek Lewis versus Sergey Pavlovich. Obviously, controversy surrounding this fight because of the way it was stopped and stuff like that. So I want to get your Your thoughts on that reaction?
More times than not, I get upset about these types of rulings because of the fact that it was. You don't ever want to see a fast stoppage. That's something you don't want to see, especially with a guy that's so beloved like Derek Lewis. The problem, though, is I watched the video several times over to make sure that I wasn't trying to be too critical, because these refs, at the end of the day, man, they have a very difficult job. You're talking about you have to be pinpoint accurate. You have to protect these guys because you don't want to see any long-term effects and then be, hospitalized, die, whatever the case is. So they have a very unfair advantage against them naturally. As early as it was and as frustrating as it was, I still think it was the right decision. The reason why is because Derek Lewis literally face planted when Pavlovich hit him with that right hook. When you saw that right hook come through, literally his hands fall and he falls and hits his head. He does regain composure, so I understand why people were upset about it, especially when Derek Lewis has been known that in those scraps and those skirmishes, he comes out with a knockout win. We want to see that again because everyone's rooting for Derek Lewis. I have to give the ref a break here, man, because if you go watch that again, it looks like Derek Lewis's lights are out. And you don't want, yes, the Czech Congo Pat Barry situation happened. That's one of the greatest moments in UFC history. But for every one of those, there are 39 of where guys are just getting their heads bashed in because they're out cold, and the ref gets criticized for letting that go too long. So I think the ref did the right thing in this one. It sucks because you don't want to see Derek lose like that. You don't want to see anybody lose like that. But the refs try to protect the fighter at some point. I think he made the right call.
Yeah, it's the right call. You never know. Like, I didn't get to watch the fights live, but I caught some of the highlights and I saw the ending of that fight there, and I just he's becoming a guy that's been getting his ass kicked lately. If we're being honest, man.
Was it 2 months ago?
Yeah,
he got knocked cold out.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So when that becomes a trend for guys, these refs, honestly, the ref was just protecting him. If anything, like he like you said, he looked like his lights were out, and the lights were out for a second. We've seen guys come back after getting lit like that before, for sure. But just the way it looked and the optics of it, I think he was losing that fight either way, if we're being honest. So I don't think it's as controversial as people were making it out to be. I think the ref did his job, and I think the ref did his job the right way. Of course, the fighter that felt he had more left in the tank and was going to come back from that, of course, he's going to be upset. And and he's a vocal guy. Obviously, everyone loves him for who he is. But I just think that was the right call, the right time.
I'm going to go the opposite on that. I'm not saying it was a terrible call. I see why they called it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I look at it the other way. I think Derek Lewis, when he went down, yeah, he was a little bit rocked, but I think he slipped a little bit. Therefore, that momentum carrying him forward, kind of bent his head or whatever.
Yeah.
But right before he stopped the fight, he was already standing up. He was in the process of already coming up and about to start throwing, and that's when he stopped the fight.
Yep.
So I can see the controversy there because I do think I think he stopped it prematurely, but I understand why people see it the other way. As to like, well, he was getting his ass beat, whatever. He was rocked. I get it, but he was coming back up. If he would have just stayed on the ground, just kind of like laid there, that's a different thing. I think he was in the momentum. He was already coming up to start throwing again. So,
and again, these are split-second things.
Yeah,
the ref has to make his decision really fast.
Yeah, in the moment,
because he has to realize those punches they cost you every single time.
And we get to see the replay. You know what I mean? And we judge off the replay, just kind of like any other sport. We go off of the replay. We don't go off of like the actual play when it happened.
Yeah.
We break down the play after it happened while watching the replays.
Right.
So, yeah,
it's definitely easy for us to critique and criticize, but like I said, these guys are in the moment. They see Derek Lewis. These are educated, professional refs. A lot of times they don't make the right choices, I agree, but in this moment, I have to side with him because, again, he's looking at it like, well, we want to keep Derek Lewis around, both in UFC and in life, and if I let this guy get his head caved in, he's going to lose 5 years of his life right here, and he probably has to retire after tonight. Yeah. We don't want to see that. Yeah.
All right, one of the co-main events of the night, which was a phenomenal fight. I got to see this card. It was a great card overall. Brandon the Assassin Baby Moreno versus Kai Kara France. Obviously, this was their second bout. I believe Brandon Moreno beat him in the first time as well. And they were fighting for the interim flyweight championship because fucking Figueiredo was quote unquote hurt. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I want to get your thoughts and reactions on that fight.
This is vindication for me, or not for me, but for me, for Brandon Moreno. That last fight was unacceptable. I'm sitting here backing up refs and all this other stuff. I can't back up the score judges on that one. That was unacceptable. Brandon Moreno won that fight, and we've stood on that. I've stood on that with you side to side, neck and neck, Eddie, on this one, lockstep on that one. I watched that fight multiple times after that, and I don't know how they gave Moreno the L on that.
Yeah. Especially to lose a belt.
Yes,
that was rough,
I mean, it was a good fight. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like he was dominating, but he won.
Yeah,
especially to the point of having the belt. This isn't one of those like Rose Namajunas situations where she just danced the whole time and lost her belt.
Right.
Like, I saw why she lost her belt, because she didn't fucking fight. Yeah. Moreno put on a show. He didn't get beat, and when you have the belt,
he wasn't
you
fighting
need
like
to get
Izzy out
beat.
there. Yeah.
He didn't get beat, therefore he should have kept his belt. So this happening the way he did it, and he got his shit rocked too. Moreno got fucked up, but he put on a clinic in this fight, man. He outstruck him.
He always does.
Dude, he's one of my favorite
He's one of the
fighters
best in
ever.
the game, man.
And I love this, man. And hopefully him and the Figueiredo thing can happen, because I think that's going to be one of the best fights we've seen in a long time. They're worthy opponents, man. I really hope that happens. And so I feel vindication for Moreno. He deserves this. He deserves his belt back. I'm really excited for him and his future, because he's still such a young fighter. I think he's only 26, 27 years old. I think he's got a great future
He's
ahead of him.
easily one of the most likable guys, one of the most likable characters in this sport right now. I love the guy. You can just tell he's like one of those guys that just loves what he does.
Yeah.
He's full of joy. He's walking with his woman into the arena like just all smiles, ear to ear. You love guys like that. Yep. You know what I mean? And it kind of reminds me of like a young Conor McGregor, he's still wet behind the ears, still kind of getting his career going in this, but he's also an assassin, an absolute killer out there, and he always puts up a show. That's what I'm saying. Like, granted, that last fight, I 100% believe he was robbed, but he didn't put the guy away. You know what I mean? He didn't, as the champ. I 100% agree that you do not lose your belt that way. That was terrible, and they should have gave him the leverage on that. He did land more hits, and all that. All the numbers were in his favor as well, but I was very upset about that as well. Yeah. That was shocking. But this was justice. You know what I mean? He got his belt back, and he's looking forward to maybe defending it and against whoever the suitor is, whether it's Figueroa, whoever it is. It's going to be a good fight, because I always. Granted, I didn't get to see this fight live, but I typically always try to find time to watch this guy fight. I love him. I think he's one of the best guys in the game right now, and and like I said, justice was served. I think he got his belt. To the rightful owner, and I think he did what he had to do, and he put this fight away, and it was a battle. I mean, it was a good fight. Both those guys were just absolutely giving each other the beats, right? So, I couldn't be happier for him, man. Moreno deserves to be champ, and he got that. So,
and I believe he changed gyms to a Kansas City gym, I believe so.
Yeah, James Krause is training him. From Kansas City.
One of the best trainers in the game.
Yep. So
shout out James Krause.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I didn't know he was training in Kansas City until they were talking about it within the UFC. It's like the gym from Kansas City, Missouri, or whatever. I was like, holy shit, what? But yeah, obviously the main event of the night.
Yeah.
Amanda Nunes against Juliana Pena. Amazing fight. Overall was a great fight. I want to get your reactions on that.
Look, I think it's very simple. I think that Ronda Rousey walked so every other woman in this sport could run. She, at that point, was the GOAT, and I'm going to give Ronda Rousey a lot of credit. She's also having an incredible, successful career in the WWE, and I'm very happy for her. Amanda Nunes is by far the greatest woman fighter in the history of the UFC. It's not close.
Yeah, she's
the
GOAT.
She proved this again. Now, I do think the first time they fought, Pena definitely shook her, because Amanda Nunes has been running through everybody, and I think what happened was she realized, oh, this woman can withstand my punches like no one else has been able to. She just beats the shit out of everybody. It's over. She just runs through everybody. And Pena gave her a fight, and it ended up paying dividends in the long run. And what I loved about this fight the most is what separates Nunes from Rousey or anybody else that's been notable in the women's competition is that once she lost, She bounced back and became better for it, and this is what she did. I think this is so awesome. It shows how dedicated she is to her craft.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know that she's a regular stance, right? That's her regular stance is right, deliver. She went southpaw, and Pena had no idea what to do. And you saw it. She couldn't defend it. She didn't know how to counter any of it. Dude, Nunes was making her face into a meat patty. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed every second of this fight. It was insanely entertaining. And Nunes put herself right back at the top, man. I mean, she is, without question, the greatest woman fighter in the history of the UFC. And now that she got her belt back, I don't know much longer she's going to fight because a lot of the women fighters don't fight for long periods of time outside of like Miesha Tate and Holly Holm. As long as she's going to be around, I think she reestablished herself as the one to fear. And I think as long as she wants to fight, she's going to continue to be the top dog unless somebody else like her comes around, which isn't there right now. There's no like big time promising, new future person. She's still the top dog, and I think she's going to be for a while.
I think the biggest difference between her and the Ronda Rousey comparison is the humility factor here. I think Ronda just was so arrogant in a lot of her ways, going through all the jobber fighters that she, beat up. When she finally found a true contender in Holly Holm, she got her ass kicked. And Holly Holm isn't like even the most skilled. She's like kind of like a kickboxer style, but she just absolutely just woman-handled Ronda. So I think there's a big difference there as far as, like you said, how they took the loss. The humility, when you can get humbled and you can bounce back from that, and you have the humility to be that person and understand, you took that L, and you can bounce back from that. That's what separates the two. But yeah, she's 100% the GOAT, man. In my mind, she took it. She came back in the rematch and was prepared, brought new strategies, and took the fight to her, and without letting the fight come to her. She definitely lost leverage in that fight the first time, and she obviously it showed. She got her ass kicked. That was a crazy sight too when that first happened. I didn't expect that at all. But yeah, I mean that just shows the resiliency and the difference that makes her who she is. And then chugging the beer after the fight, that was legendary, man. She's awesome, bro. So I'm excited for her. I'm glad that she was able to redeem herself in that fight, and just just a good way to end that main card with her redeeming herself and being back on top. It's where she belongs.
I gotta give Pena some credit, though.
Of course.
Absolutely.
God
she's been by far the greatest fighter
not to
that
take away
Nunes
anything.
ever won against.
Yes.
By far. You remember when Nunes did a Cyborg all those years ago?
Yeah,
just absolutely just made her into it. Yeah, she folded her like a blanket. Yeah. So to see what Pena did.
Pena almost submitted her at least 3-4 times.
That's true, dude. Yeah. I should have mentioned that.
It was close. It was close. Obviously, going hand in hand.
Yeah, you don't want to stand up.
By far the superior fucking fighter between both of them. But Pena, man, she deserves credit. She defended that championship.
I wouldn't be opposed to another for round 3.
She's already beat her once.
Hey.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. It's 1-1 right now.
Break the tie.
Yeah, get a rematch. I'm all. And at this point, like I said, who's out there that's going to really contend?
Nobody.
Give Pena another shot.
Yeah.
Now that she knows the southpaw can be there,
and she has to get her rematch because she was the champion, so she has to go. Yeah, she has to go back for her belt.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a good fight if it does happen. What the other good fight? That's gonna happen because it was announced, and you tagged us. You tagged me and Trevor in it for on ESPN.
So stoked.
And it is Adesanya versus Pereira, which is the fight we've been waiting for since the kickboxing days.
Man, oh man!
This is a fight that. It might.
The universe deserves this.
It might make Izzy fight again. Like fight. Actually, fight.
It might make Adesanya actually work for that championship.
Y'all are so disrespectful to my guy.
I love it.
So your thoughts on that?
Oh, dude, this is everything I wanted. And again, it was one of those we knew it was gonna happen. It had to happen. And once you saw it, it still felt like almost in disbelief, like it's really happening.
Yeah.
And the reason why this feels so cool is because we know, yes, Adesanya has not put up great performances over his last couple fights. I won't fight you on that, guy. We've had our debates on this. I tell you guys why I think he's done the way he's done it, and you guys, I know you don't really feel the same way I do. That's fine.
I understand it 100%.
But I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a performance of his lifetime. I'm not going to make my prediction of who's going to win, But you better believe Israel.
gonna have to be.
You better believe Izzy's coming into this fight knowing he has to make a statement because of the fact this is the one guy in the world that's actually like beating him at his weight. Now we know that he lost a fight a few months back or whatever because he went up a weight class. But Pereira is the only dude, or Pereira, however you say is how you pronounce it. He's the only guy that's beaten him multiple times and KO'd his ass. I mean, you go watch that video. It's almost painful to watch because it looks like he killed Izzy.
Bullied him.
And yeah, he kicked him right in the damn head. And so this is everything we needed in the UFC, and we finally have like this bitter rivalry again because the UFC hasn't really been having that lately. We haven't had our Chael Sonnens anymore. You didn't have your dudes that even Colby Covington hasn't fought in a while. You know, like there's not been that heel vibe. Now I'm not saying either one of these guys are a heel, but a lot of people don't like Israel Adesanya. They don't like his way. They don't like how lazy his style looks sometimes in the octagon. And then Pereira's this guy that's been just kind of lurking and working his way back, and now I think he's only fought 6 professional fights in MMA. This is a golden opportunity for Izzy to really kill this ghost and kill this narrative. Because if he goes out there and beats Alex Pereira, all of a sudden it's like, okay, so what's next? What's next for Izzy? There's nothing. He's proven himself. He's the champ already. He's got several different title defenses. He's already gone up a weight class to try out new things. And then there's the one guy that's actually beaten him on multiple occasions. He goes out there and beats Alex. This is going to be a storyline for the ages, man. But on the flip side, if Alex wins, then the legacy for Izzy is destroyed forever. Like he could still go out and get the belt again one day or something like that. But losing in kickboxing multiple times to one guy, you go and get the belt in the UFC, and that guy comes over to the UFC and beats you again, your legacy's done. You can no longer be considered one of the 3 greatest UFC fighters of all time, which I do believe Israel is on that trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah, man, the history attached to this is wild. Going from one combat sport that was strictly kickboxing and then coming into the mixed martial arts realm where kind of anything goes and you can kind of, which works in Izzy's favor because I think he's the more complete MMA, mixed martial arts fighter. But that doesn't really mean much, man, when these guys know each other's games so well. I will say Izzy is shown to have been the more evolved fighter and has made his presence known, obviously, with his trajectory within this sport. But Pereira, he that guy, man, he's on his way as well. He's a dominant guy. He has so much power, and his kicks are violent. I'm not going to give my prediction yet because we'll talk about this once it leads up to this. But this is a fight where I'm torn on how this is going to go. I think this is a tough matchup for Izzy, maybe the toughest matchup in his career, because this guy could possibly have the edge of being in his head and the mental side of this. How
many other people can say that?
Right. So that's what I'm saying. He's beat Izzy twice. Granted, not MMA. But it was kickboxing, which is both of their backgrounds and both of the foundation of their fighting styles. Yeah. That's something to really think about because if the mental side of this is huge, man. And Izzy is the king as far as how he's been in the UFC. He's the king of being in the psyche of his opponents. This is a guy that might have the edge on Izzy this time, and that's a different dynamic heading into this matchup. And I think that carries more weight than people like to give credence to. So. This is an exciting one. This is definitely a fight I'm going to be watching and getting up for. I think this is a fight that can definitely, would end up in a knockout more than it wouldn't. I think these guys want to take their heads off. I think this is a fight where Izzy's going to have to be the aggressor more than he has been in the last couple fights. He tends to let guys come to him and work off their energy and be more of a counter fighter. I don't think he's going to want that in this fight. I think he's gonna want to go out there and set the tone in this fight. We're gonna have to see a different version of Izzy, be more of the aggressor, because I think the fight's gonna come to him quick, and I think Pereira is gonna be ready, and I think this is a guy that's in his head already, and this is the guy he has to get off of him because he has the leverage on him mentally. So I'm excited, man. This matchup is for any purist of the sport, anybody who follows UFC. These aren't obviously Izzy's a huge name, but this other guy coming into the picture, and it could be a new name, and it could be a new could change the sport as far as namesake. He could definitely make a name from this. Is the biggest opportunity to do so, and I think there's a chance this guy can go out there and win. Looking forward to it.
And this is a fight that Izzy can't. Like you said, he can't let Pereira come to him because that would be dangerous for Izzy. Because you let Pereira get to you, he ain't like any other fighter.
He'll
man.
light you up like a Christmas tree,
Yeah,
as you saw in his last
he'll-
fight against was it Strickland, Sean
Yeah,
Strickland,
he'll-
who hadn't lost in forever.
Yeah, he'll fuck you up.
Whooped his
son.
ass.
You like he has to come out and be the aggressor. On this one I'm with Trev. I don't think he can afford to let Pereira come to him because that would be a complete mistake on his side. So,
And I will say Izzy is great at preparation. He knows his opponents very well. He's a very smart, very intelligent, intellectual type of guy. So I'm going to give him the credit of his preparation. These guys know each other. I think he knows he can fight. Obviously, there's more fighting styles you can implement in the MMA than he could just kickboxing. So I think there is an edge there for Izzy as well. I think he's the better overall fighter. But man, guys are so good at their craft, like Pierre as at kickboxing and his foundation of what he is and how strong and how dynamic of a fighter he is and how powerful he is. It takes one hit. You know what I mean? So it's exciting though. This is gonna be a fun one. The shit talking leading up to this fight is gonna be epic. Though. I'm gonna say that
it's
now.
gonna be great.
Yeah.
Next question. Donovan Mitchell being a potential part of a trade out of Utah. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, the structure as it's been currently rumored is Donovan Mitchell in a 3-team trade involving the Jazz, the Knicks, and the Lakers. There's a lot of benefit for all these teams involved, which is why this is a very likely scenario. So Donovan Mitchell clearly wants to go back home where he's from, New York. It's a great opportunity for him to get himself out of a smaller market and get into a bigger market. I don't think the success is really going to follow, especially if he gets there with Jalen Brunson, because they're kind of the same type of player. Now, Donovan Mitchell's significantly better, but they're both undersized guards that play terrible defense. That's not a really good idea to be building blocks for your team, but that's the Knicks, and that's how they do things. On the Jazz side of things, they get supposedly Russell Westbrook, which they'll buy out his contract. They'll get around 6 to 7 draft picks, which is the Jazz's goal in mind, with Danny Ainge taking over. And we all know he's a draft pick guru. He loves getting draft picks, and I think that's what he's doing there in Utah. And with Donovan Mitchell being the key cog that he is at 25 years old, borderline superstar player, that's probably the best haul you're going to get. And at worst, you keep Russell Westbrook on his $47 million deal, and you try to get him to play for your team for 1 year, and then you're done with him anyway. So there's win-wins for the Jazz there, and there's a lot of wins for the Knicks with marketing and getting themselves a star player for the first time in about 10 years. For the Lakers, the side of this trade that actually works for them pretty well is Jordan Clarkson reuniting with the Lakers and getting Bogdanovich. First name, God dang it, I always forget his first name.
Yeah, man.
Bogdanovich is a really good three-point shooter, 3-and-D type of guy, a stretch 4 type of player, good veteran guy to add with Patrick Mahomes. Why am I saying Patrick Mahomes? What the fucking Lakers here?
We're in Chiefs
LeBron
mode,
James
man.
having that kind of guy, because Bogdanovich, I know this sounds stupid, but hear me out. Bogdanovich and Klay Thompson have similar game styles where they're really good spot 3-point shooter guys and they have really good perimeter defense.
Good catch and shoot, guys.
That's the kind of guy I always said LeBron James could have, that'd have been the greatest teammate LeBron could have had as a Klay Thompson guy. So at a smaller scale, Bogdanovich being that guy with LeBron is great. And Jordan Clarkson being a guy that can go out there and create his own shot, similar style to like a Jamal Crawford type of guy. I think that's the kind of guy that is perfect for this team to kind of give them that edge. And like Trevor said earlier, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but we talked about this before the show or yesterday. Kyrie Irving is going to be a Laker, and when that happens, you add Jordan Clarkson and Bogdanovich to the equation. That is a championship team. And so I think all 3 teams would win in this trade, which is why I think this is very likely to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long this is going to linger. It really comes down to what the Jazz are willing to accept, and if they do get all those picks, I don't see why they wouldn't accept that.
Knicks have a lot of picks to give them. The Lakers have 2 first-round picks to deal with.
And I think Donovan going to the Knicks is a great move for the Knicks, especially getting a nice big name in that jersey, give those fans something to look forward to and cheer for and passes. I mean, that's a great fan base, man. Knicks fans are some of the best
for better
for
or
what
worse,
they've been through,
what
they've been through, and what they've all the
do it for Spike Lee, damn it.
Something about those East Coast sports fans. I mean, love them or hate them, the toxicity that comes with a lot of that too.
The racism.
They are the most. They are the most. They're the most dynamic fans you can find, really, man. Outside of some other Midwest towns and stuff like that, where they love our sports,
like
but
Kansas City.
As far as football goes, yes. But I mean, in all sports, any team that's like East Coast sports, though, their fans are wild, right? You got the Bills Mafia, you got the Eagles fans and
Jets fans,
Jets and Giants. I mean, all these teams have been shit for years, and they're still selling out games. Like it's just. I got so much respect for those fan bases. So I think the Knicks deserve a nice star player to cheer for. to give them some kind of opportunity to maybe possibly push for the playoffs. They have a lot of good young talent in New York right now, so I think Donovan Mitchell and his leadership and his veteran presence and who he is as a player, it's a dynamic force, a guy that can do it all, both sides with the ball. I think this is a win-win for all these teams. I think this is a great package deal. I don't know where Russ would actually end up if he's in that mix of that trade.
Maybe nowhere. I mean, like I said, I think the Jazz would buy him out. That's the natural thought.
Ooh, buying him out?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the Jazz can definitely utilize Russ. I think they would. He would definitely. I think if he ended up there in Utah, I think he would stick around. I think that
he would hate those fans because he hates them now.
Oh, I get it, but that's not his choice. I mean, unless he demands being bought out or something, if he can even do that. But
because Jazz fans are the opposite of what you're saying about the East Coast fans.
Yeah,
they're just terrible.
Yeah,
they suck.
That's rough.
I hope Utah fans are listening right now. Y'all suck, man. You guys are terrible to people out there.
Yeah, so
weird shit.
I think Donovan Mitchell's been stuck in Utah for too long at this point, anyway. So. And quite frankly, those fans don't deserve him. I would love to see him in a Knicks uniform. I think that'd be good for the NBA. I think this does absolutely 100% open up the door for Kyrie Irving to become a Laker. I think he's been looming in the mist for long enough. I think he's been hanging around in LA. He's been out there playing around with the Drew League stuff and doing all these training. And he's been kind of moving around, but he's been spotted in LA numerous times at this point now. He's got a home in LA. He's got, you know what I mean? So I think it makes too much sense for this to all to open up, especially with Russ being a part of this package, to open up that door to let Kyrie become a Laker here soon. So I think this is definitely an option to or something of the likes of this package to be done. And I think it's a foregone thing that the Knicks are really, really all in on getting Donovan Mitchell. I think that's going to happen. Whatever happens with Russ is kind of the whole card in this mix, to be honest.
All right, let's go into Major League Baseball, the sport that Lance loves.
Let's do it.
All right, man. Angels keeping Shohei Ohtani and deciding to not trade him on the deadline. Thoughts on that?
Just furthers the fact that they're just the worst franchise in the history of sports, man. How in the world you can not only have, the value and the greatness of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers being with the Packers and how they only have 2 Super Bowls to show for it, like how abysmal that is and how unacceptable that is. Well, imagine if Brett Favre was like Jerry Rice and Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers, and they played together, and they only had a couple Super Bowls to show for it. That'd still be like, what the hell? How did they manage to do that? Yeah. That's literally what's going on with the Angels. Except, we're not even asking them to win a World Series. We're talking about making fucking playoffs with the 2 greatest players of their generation. Shohei hasn't been in the game for a long time as far as the majors are concerned, but there's without question, this far surpasses anything Babe Ruth ever did. Because this guy is playing at a higher level and a much more competitive league. This dude is a borderline elite pitcher and is one of the best hitters in baseball. So what he's doing alone is incredible. And not to mention Mike Trout, for the last 10 years, has been by far the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
On the same team at the same time, and they can't even get in the playoffs. I was really... And
it's a big market team.
And I'm not even a Yankee... Y'all know
it's a big market.
Y'all know I'm not a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
I was rooting for Shohei to go to the Yankees. I wanted him to go to the Yankees. You know why?
Give him a chip.
Because, yes, exactly. I want to see him in the playoffs. I want to imagine that story of Garrett Cole and Shohei Ohtani being on the same lineup or the same rotation, and he's out there hitting behind Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah.
Could you imagine just how insane that would be? How much fun that would be as a baseball viewer? I want to see guys like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani in the playoffs. They're never going to be there as long as they're with the Angels. I hate that franchise so damn much. I know we have friends out there in that area, but go fuck yourself, Angels, man. You guys have ruined this for me, man. I can't even enjoy watching Shohei Ohtani because I know there's always a catch.
I mean, what is it though that you think that is causing their failure? Because we both understand the talent that they are, and what they're capable of, and what they bring on a nightly basis. It's just the fact that this is a poorly ran franchise. They just can't find ways to accumulate other talent to help build an actual team around these guys. Is that what you think it is?
That's exactly what it is.
I know the roster isn't great overall.
Right. What they do is it is so funny. It's baseball. It's so on brand because it's literally swing and miss.
Yeah.
Because what they do is they go out and they'll overspend on a veteran pitcher or something like that, and that pitcher either doesn't, become what they thought he was going to be, or was never that, but they were expecting him to be, or the fact they draft terribly, they trade off good players, but then they don't want to, value the guys like Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. The problem with this franchise, they're cheap asses, even though, like you said, they're in the market that they're in. They're cheap asses, but then they'll go and, like I said, spend on a player they shouldn't have been spending on, and then let go of a player they shouldn't have let go and should have paid for him. They make terrible decisions all the way through the farm system, all the way to the top. And they've had so much influx from front office staff. They've had ownership issues. They literally play to the role of being little brother to the Dodgers. It's almost like they're intimidated by it. It's so weird.
That's what I was going to bring up next. Like, they're in the exact same market as the Dodgers. Why are they not more attractive than the Dodgers? Because if you say you flip the rosters, and Ohtani and Mike Trout are on the Dodgers, everyone's going to want to go play with those guys.
Right. What was the last?
They're both in LA.
What was the last big time free agent you guys saw the Angels go out and grab?
It
doesn't happen. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, they lucked out by getting Shohei Ohtani. They lucked out by having Mike Trout drafted. Like, I'll give them credit for getting those guys. But what have they done with it? They kept Mike Scioscia as their manager far too long. He was there. He should have been fired 7-8 years before he did. And then they go out and they get what's his name from the Rays who went to the Cubs and got fired anyway. Joe Madden. Thank you, Joe Madden. Who I love, and he's cool and he's fun and all this other shit. But he's like tinkering with lineups and like doing shit that's pissing his players off literally on the field. Like, they just, like I said, it's decision making. You got to be able to build a championship roster, and they just refuse to do it. And they're banking on these guys, and it still sucks.
But yeah, they're not going to blow it up and trade these guys and accumulate all these other whatever assets they can get for these guys, because everyone knows they can get the world for those two guys if they decided to send them off somewhere else.
I think the Yankees actually made an offer.
Mike Trout is literally having back problems now.
Yeah,
because he's been carrying the damn franchise for a decade.
Yeah,
I'm almost not kidding.
It's not fair to those guys, man. It's really not. But I don't have much more to add to that. It's a confusing situation.
It's crazy how Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani are not enough to bring any free agents to Anaheim.
That's what's they just don't spend on them. That's the point.
That's crazy.
They gave Trout money. They gave Shohei money. Like, I get all that. And Shohei's contract's up, by the way.
Next year.
Next year, yeah.
So he has to get paid.
They paid, but those are the most common sense moves you can make. When you have the money to spend, you better spend it on guys like them. Otherwise, I would hope the MLB gets together and like, all right, we need to discontinue you. You're getting relegated, and we don't have relegation, but you're getting relegated. Like, I want that at this point. I want a new franchise to come in and replace the Angels. That's how bad they are. You know what they need? They need Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Christopher Lloyd, and a couple other, Danny Glover from Angels in the outfield. Then they start doing some shit. Then they go out there. Tony Danza? Start doing some of this shit. Maybe they'll get some good luck on their side. And Matthew McConaughey was on that movie too.
Shohei Ohtani's not going to be cheap.
Just get all those guys from the movie from 1994's Angels in the Outfield.
What are you thinking on Shohei Ohtani's contract next year? What do you think that's going to be?
Well, Juan Soto is going to get $500 million. And Shohei Ohtani is a better overall player than Juan Soto. I would say that it needs to be right. That needs to be the base. I think he needs to get $550 million.
15 years.
Yeah, he's 28 years old now. Years. He'll never see the end of his contract because he won't last that long. But he needs to get 10 plus years and about $550 million. Whew. That's where he's at. Juan Soto is going to get $500 million from the Pods. So.
And I'm glad you brought up Juan Soto because that was my next question.
Yeah.
What do you think about the trade? What does this do for the Padres?
I'm happy for Juan Soto and the Padres more so than the Nationals because, like the Angels, the Nationals have been able to squander having star players all these years. They drafted Bryce Harper, couldn't win shit with him. They had Max Scherzer for all those years, couldn't win shit with him. They did end up winning a World Series, I'll give that to him, but that's because Randon and guys like that got hot in the playoffs and saved them. Yeah, and Juan Soto came around and did what he did.
Big reason why they won.
And they can't convince him to stay. I'm so happy for the Padres and Juan Soto because now Juan's with Tatis. He's with Manny Machado. He's got some great teammates. This team's already a playoff team. Now they got Juan Soto in the middle of the lineup and in their outfield. Woo! The Dodgers have some legitimate competition. I still think the Dodgers are the better team because they have a better rotation, but I still think that the Padres have put themselves in a much better position now with Juan Soto, who, in my opinion, is very much on the trajectory of being the best player in the majors one day. He's only 23 years old, so he's got plenty of time, but it's gonna happen. This dude's already an elite figure. Putting him in that rotation, or rather in that lineup, is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I don't have any more.
I don't give a shit.
and I mean, rumor has it, like you said, his contract's looking like a 15-year, $500 million
he's
contract.
Worth every penny.
And he's only, 23?
23 years old.
That's insane. He'll be 38 when that contract's over.
He'll probably still be playing.
Yeah.
He'll probably still be playing.
It's insane. Yeah. He might pull another, A-Rod? two over 100 million contract.
Man, it will be interesting though to see real quick, and we can move on. It will be interesting to see how he hits slugging percentage wise, home runs, doubles, and like that in Petco Park, because that's a very tough place to hit. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting to see how he does there. If he still is crushing home runs, then you just need to give him his gold jacket now, because dude's making the Hall of Fame.
Gold jacket, green jacket. Who gives a shit?
Juan Soto gives a shit. It's going to be interesting to see how he hits out there.
Yeah, Juan Soto. God damn. All right, last question, man, and obviously this has been the biggest topic in sports media in the past week. Obviously, last Monday, Judge Sue Robinson came out, suggested a 6-game suspension for Deshaun Watson, and obviously the NFL has made an appeal. Now they're assigning. I think Roger Goodell said the NFL was not going to be in charge of it, but they're going to assign somebody. So. Your thoughts?
What I'm going to say after that, my following words I'm going to say are facts, not opinions. Judge Sue Robinson was appointed in the new CBA, or it wasn't her necessarily, but there was going to be a third-party team that was going to have the right to hand down and delegate a suspension for situations like this, nonviolent sexual crimes or nonviolent sexual situations. That was a problem in itself, because the NFL took themselves and removed themselves from actually handing down punishment. That is why the NFL is there, to be the shield, to be the ones that withhold and maintain the integrity of the game. They effed up in that regard in the beginning, because they should have never had a third party there. They were just so bad and so inept at handling these situations, they had to do that for the public opinion. But that also backfired, because now what happened is something so egregious to what Deshaun's done. I don't need to go over what he's already done, because we all know what's happened. Because of that, she went off precedent. And because of what they did, she had the right to go off of precedent. The problem in all of this is there is no true precedent, because the precedent she went off of was a situation like Ben Roethlisberger or Ezekiel Elliott, that had one woman accuse them of sexual assault and sexual misconduct and rape. And those guys got 6 games for that one. Deshaun has exponentially more women coming forward. There was over 30, 24 in civil suits, but 30 in total that came forward and had stories to tell. There is no precedent for what happened. And that is why the NFL decided, and they did see the public outcry and the backlash that ensued after the announcement came up of only 6 games. They said, we have to do this. And it really screws them up, because, again, they went against what their own mandate was of going against the third party, but they had no choice in this situation. Because even the third party themselves, and Sue Robinson, admitted in her final decision that she knows Deshaun Watson was guilty for what had happened. She knows that it was sexual violence or nonviolent sexual activity. She knows that he was not remorseful for any of these things that took place, and therefore should be suspended. The number was incorrect because, again, she only could go off of what was initially established. Now the NFL is doing the right thing by reestablishing the precedent, because this is now something that has never happened before, so you have to reset it for the next unfortunate situation. Hopefully it never happens again, something to this magnitude or something even close to it. But if in fact it does, this is the new groundwork. This is the new base. This is what's going to take place. Hey, you know what's going to happen? You just did something similar to what Deshaun Watson did. He just got a year's suspension and $10 million in fines, which is going to be very close to what he's going to get, if not more. Because the NFL has to do the right thing for the first time in what seems to be forever. Because at any situation of any of these magnitudes, they've never done the right thing. The NFL's always fucked this thing up. Ezekiel should have got more than 6 games for that woman. Jameis Winston should have got more than 3 games for what he did with that Uber driver. Ben Roethlisberger should have got more than 6 games for what he did. So this needs to be done right for Deshaun Watson's situation. This has gone on too long, and now the new third party that Roger Goodell did assign, I was of the belief he was going to assign himself, but I understand the arrogance that follows that. He assigned a New Jersey judge, or New Jersey, I think an attorney by the name of Peter Harvey, if I'm not mistaken, a guy that's already been in connection with the NFL before and actually helped get Ezekiel Elliott his 6-game suspension. So Deshaun's fucked. Like, these are all facts here. This is not my opinion. Deshaun Watson is fucked. I would be utterly surprised. Now the fact part's over. I'm going to give my opinion. I would be utterly surprised if Deshaun Watson plays a single snap this season. And I said this months ago back in June. I don't think he's going to play football this year. And now that the NFL stepped in, it's not to get him a 7 or 8 game suspension.
Yeah.
They're going for the axe. And they already offered him a 12-game suspension with $8 million in fines. The NFL offered him that, and he turned that down. Now he has no leverage. What can he go off of? And he could go and try to counter-sue, but this is what everything Sue Robinson said in her verdict is non-binding. You can't change it. And she stated that she sided with the NFL on everything they're accusing Deshaun Watson of. So he is fucked. Even if he tries to counter-sue and takes this to federal court, they can't change the ruling. So the only thing he can really try to do is go for more money. But he's already got $230 million guaranteed by the Browns, and that's another portion of why this pissed off the NFL so bad. Because Jimmy Haslam went out there and fully guaranteed and fully rewarded a man that has 24-plus women coming after him for sexual misconduct. And that pissed the rest of the league off. So you better believe that the rest of the owners are siding with the NFL on this.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, fuck this, fuck that team up. They just gave this dude $230 million guarantee, which resets the market for every other quarterback that's about to come up for payment.
They all wanted him as well.
Exactly.
They didn't want to guarantee that.
What I'm saying is, some of these franchises,
Yeah.
like the Chargers,
Yeah.
the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Ravens,
Yeah,
that
'cause that
had
flips the
quarterbacks that
market.
either were about to get paid or will be getting paid. They saw that, and those quarterbacks are going to go, well, I don't have 24 women coming against me. And I put up just as good of numbers, if not better, over the last couple of years because Deshaun didn't even play last year. Yeah. You're paying me 230 plus. That's why Kyler Murray got 230.5 in his guaranteed totals because that was the new baseline. So now the NFL is going to go after him. I'm telling you guys right now, the lowest suspension he's getting is double-digit games, wink, wink, Eddie, and that's what's going to happen. We're going to see him not play football this year. I would be totally surprised if he plays at all. Jacoby Brissett or Jimmy Garoppolo will be the quarterback week 1 for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, this is all so exhausting, dealing with this shit. I just want it to be over with. Granted, to whoever the victims may be, to whoever they are, to whoever's truthful in these situations, you know, I am with you on whatever these accusations are. Whether it was in reality in the court system, whether anything was actually proven for him to be guilty, there's an overwhelming amount of accusations here, and where there's smoke, there's fire. Typically in these kinds of situations, this is a unique one in the NFL. We could talk about the Big Ben and Ezekiel Elliott; those were one occurrences. Singular occurrences. This is,
by the way, no criminal charges for either one of them either. So people can't use that angle either.
Right. So I'm saying, like,
There's no
this is So this is whether these situations were solicited or unsolicited. The way they've been coming off was they were solicited, but they were. In the reality. So what this comes down to with the NFL doing what they're doing, they have to protect their brand. Right, this is the NFL doing what they believe is right, and they don't want that guy being a face of the league this year. So all this, whatever, it may never. This is forever going to tarnish his personal legacy. He's never going to rebound from this 100%. That's never. He can go win 3 Super Bowls. He's still going to be this guy, right? No one's arguing the talent. But this as a person has totally flipped Deshaun Watson's personality on its head.
And honestly, if he has success, real quick, Trevor, if he has success, it's actually going to get worse because he will be looked at as, oh, well, this motherfucker shouldn't be playing anyway, and then it's just going to be more of a circus, more of a fire put on it. If he fails and things don't go good for him, what are people going to do? Just kick him while he's down? They're just going to be like, oh yeah, well he's a rapist, abuser, whatever you want to call him, and they're just going to scoff at him. But I'm sorry, no. That's how it's going to go.
I'm careful with my name calling and what I'm going to call him and what people should call him because I don't know, man. Like I don't know what is true, what is not true. But I have to kind of go with the optics of what there's just too much.
Yeah.
There's just at the end of the day, there's just too much. There's too much smoke, man. There's way too much smoke. It might be a small fire, but that's all you need, right? That's all that one occurrence is enough, and there's just a high amount of smoke here, and it's just too much. And I know it's going to hurt the NFL league brand if it's only 6 games, which is why I know they're coming down hard. And Goodell's like, fuck that. I have to make an example of this guy. Yep. Right. And if we made examples of Ezekiel Elliott, we made examples of Tom Brady in certain little scenarios and with the phones and stuff, and we made examples of Big Ben, and this is that on absolute juice, right? This scenario is the biggest we've probably seen in the NFL outside of the white Bronco. That's even a further scenario, obviously. But this is the volume, right, of individuals that are involved in this situation is just it's unmatched. I haven't seen anything like this, man. It's been a while since we've had any real drama like this in the NFL as far as to this magnitude with such a high prolific player. And then with the Browns giving him that money and completely flipping the league upside down with the market for QBs, let alone guys that are actually available and playing football currently. It's a wild scenario we're in right now. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I do think I would lean more towards him not playing this year than missing 6 games.
Yeah.
I'm leaning more towards that as well because I think the NFL is going to fight, and the NFL is just not going to lose. The NFL is not going to lose. If they can suspend Tom Brady for half a season, or however long it was.
4 games.
But they were pushing for like half a season. They ended up settling for 4 games, I believe. But if they can make the GOAT compared to from most people, sit out 4 games over, an issue that was going on in his life at that time, if they can do that, Deshaun Watson stands no chance in my mind.
I'd like to get Eddie's thoughts on this.
So I'm just saying.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
To finish that, I mean, there is a scenario where that doesn't happen, but I believe that the NFL is stepping in and they're going to crack down on this and make this. They want to get involved, obviously, and they weren't pleased with the result of the first verdict. I think there's definitely a chance where he just does not play, and who knows, man? This can get even worse than that. It could be multiple seasons.
There might be more women that come forward.
Who knows? But I'm also. I have a problem with nothing truly being proven. I have an issue with that as well. I see both sides of this, but the volume is where it's too much.
Well, because to that point, let's be fully transparent here. We about a year ago had this conversation about something else when it came to Bill Cosby. Yeah. And you and I, you guys remember what side I was on, where I was like, oh, this is bullshit. They can't prove anything. Yeah. And the thing that you and Eddie, and I don't want to put words in you guys' mouth, but this is what you guys presented to me that turned me around and made me see. You guys were like, well, hold on, dude. There's so many women throughout the decades. Hannibal Buress came forward. Like, other women came forward. Like, yeah, you may not be able to substantially prove it, but at what point do you say that first and second accounts do matter? Because I understand if it's like one person or a couple people, it's some number.
Granted,
it has to be okay. Wait a second here.
The Cosby thing was a little more extensive with the drugging and everything. That's
but there was never proof that happened. There was never proof that happened. It was all first and second hand accounts that came forward and said that. It was because there were so many that it was no longer ignored, and that's the thing you guys got me to realize. So to me, by the letter of the law, it's paralleled to what's going on with Deshaun Watson because you can't definitively prove it. But first and second-hand accounts are the ones that are detailing the matters, and they're very consistent, just like the Bill Cosby stuff, that you have to take it seriously. You can't just say, well, that's just hearsay. No, it's not. When it's a 20-plus people saying the same story.
For me, it's just like, what did he do that was illegal? Because Cosby, obviously, the threatened, the accusations were 100% illegal. He was drugging and raping women.
Violating people.
I don't know, but it was never like with the Deshaun thing. I don't remember hearing any reports that was like literally against these women's will.
Well, you read the stories of what these women are saying. He was sexually harassing them, and it was non-violent. They want to say because he wasn't like forcefully jumping on them.
I haven't heard any reports about it being unsolicited. That's the only thing. Like,
women are literally quitting these jobs because of this.
Yeah, but they. I haven't really heard anything that was like 100% against their will that they didn't go
DMs,
with, and they didn't accept payment.
Okay, there were 66 women he did DM over a 17-month span on Instagram. That alone is already unprofessional because half the women weren't even actual masseuses. So that was weird in itself. Second
weird and illegal are two different things.
He had NDAs being signed, right? And also the fact that these women were not prepped or told, hey, listen, I'm looking for sexual activity.
Yeah.
He didn't, that's already prostitution in itself, so that would have been illegal. But at least that would have been made clear. All the accounts that are coming against him are stating he was touching, he was asking, he was putting things on them, he ejaculated on some of these women. Like, that is not, you can sit here and say, well, nothing illegal was done. Is that not something, though, that is not okay and should not be treated as something that is incriminating?
Well, now we're talking about morals. I mean, I'm not going to...
The NFL, like you said yourself, they have a shield to protect. They can't have this guy representing their league, which is why the suspensions came down, and he didn't have to have criminal charges. Same with Ezekiel Elliott, same with Ben Roethlisberger, same with Jameis Winston, but they all served a suspension.
Oh, he's going to. I'm just trying to play both sides here a little bit and really try to balance out my personal take. I definitely think the NFL has a reputation to uphold and a shield to protect and a brand to protect. But
That's all it really comes down to.
I just really curious to be a part. I would love to be like in the jury and like really hear what's been proven, because that's honestly at the end of the day, that is all that matters in the reality of this. The NFL can do whatever they want, but in the reality, for his personal brand, for Deshaun's name, if he's never done anything truly illegal and these women went along with that, you may not like that morally. And this is a tough thing to talk about and try to keep people from being offended when I'm saying, but like if nothing was actually done in the communication in the moment of what's happening, it was solicited and these people went along with the ride, there's nothing that they can really say to legally press charges on something that they did, that something happened to them that they did not want, because if you went along with it,
but to that story, these women are not saying it was accepted. They were consenting.
Okay, if it was against their will, that's 100%.
That's what I'm saying.
Wrong.
Every story is saying
I haven't really heard
they
that.
did not consent to what he was offering, what he was asking.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, I've been reading this stuff because I want to make sure I know what the hell I'm talking about.
I feel like the charges would have been far more swift if
Eddie, you know this stuff on the legal side.
He settled with most of the women already. He was paid.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's only one left.
Yeah, there's of the 24 that came forward for civil action, only one is left, and it's Ashley Salas, if I'm not mistaken. She's been the one that's been the most vocal of all this. Because initially, she wasn't even looking for monetary handout, or not even call it a handout. She wasn't looking for payments. She wanted her story to be told. Yeah. I think she is now. But you know what? I honestly can't blame her, bro. I honestly can't blame her if she's looking for, because you think that's punitive damages. It's no different than someone coming back here, not even illegally, like making a turn out here and bumping into me, and it messes my back up. I might not initially be looking for payout, but if I'm like, hey, hold on, I'm going to miss work, I have mental and emotional damage because of this, I better get paid for this. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to talk about not the illegal side, there's also nothing wrong with these women looking for punitive damages. It's nothing wrong with that. It's no different than any other type of lawsuit. Eddie, I want to get your thoughts on this.
No comment. It's a very sensitive topic. If you see both sides, you're pretty much quote unquote, I guess, accepting rape on whatever Twitter goes off of, because apparently they labeled him a rapist when he never raped any of these women. But it's very hard to pick a side here, because you really don't know what happened. We really don't know. Like I said, there's really no evidence. We're just going on to whatever they're both saying. I get it. There's multiple women. I understand that. Then, if he did do those things, he deserved to be suspended, in jail, and all that stuff. But if you can't prove this in court, two courts that this went into, and pretty much they found him innocent of any wrongdoing, it's just I don't know. It's very confusing.
Can I ask? I'll just want to ask a question, and then we can move on, because I don't want to keep going on in this. So I just want to ask just a scenario. Okay, if Eddie, you heard that let's say one woman came forward and said, "Hey, Lance was fondling me. Lance sexually assaulted me." You might hold on.
That's a fallacious start to your. You're not Deshaun Watson, dude. Like you're not worth millions.
Well, let me finish my story before you just start jumping on me. Okay. First of all, second of all, if you were to hear that by one person, you could probably with definitive nature say, "Oh, well, I know Lance. That's not something I would see him doing." Because you have a relationship with me. But if you heard 24 plus women tell you the same story, even though you know me, would that not in any way sit here and go, man, that's 24 people telling me the same story about Lance, and this is a guy I know. So with all that, complete strangers saying that about somebody that you don't know, is that not something that can you can sit here talking about proof? But again, to the other story of Bill Cosby and people like that have there is zero proof that Bill Cosby did any of these things. We only went off of what we were told. How is it any different?
There actually was proof for Bill Cosby. That's
what?
Why, that's
what
why,
proof?
That's why he was put in jail, but he got off on a technicality.
What proof?
There was like eyewitnesses, and there was other people.
That's not proof. That's eyewitnesses.
No.
Are these women not eyewitnesses? They were literally in the situation.
The accuser can't be an eyewitness.
Trevor, who was the eyewitness? What is the difference between having an eyewitness and a testimony?
Lance,
Those are testimonies.
Why was Bill Cosby sentenced to prison?
I'm asking you.
He was proven guilty.
What proof?
He was proven. I don't know. I don't have the whole situation in front of me. But Bill Cosby was proven guilty. That's why he went to prison.
What proof?
I don't have it in front of me. But he was proven guilty.
Trevor, you just said it though. It's eyewitness accounts.
No. That was one of the things in the Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby situation is much different than this, though.
How?
He was a proven rapist. He was proven.
How?
Why are you trying to pull that? I don't have the information in front of me.
But you're saying it's
Lance,
definitive.
No. He was proven guilty, which is why he went to... That doesn't matter right now. He was proven guilty.
It doesn't matter how he was proven guilty?
What was the verdict for Bill Cosby? He was proven guilty, correct? Which is why he went to prison.
Yes.
How
was he proven guilty?
Lance, I don't have it on me right now. I don't have the proof. I wasn't in the court. I don't have all the information in front of me. But he was proven guilty is all you need to know.
Okay.
I don't have the proof right now.
I don't see. I looked for myself. I did not see any proof. There was witnesses. There were testimonies. That's not proof.
Just because you don't have it right now. He was proven guilty. That was the verdict. He was proven guilty. That's all you need. I don't understand why this is hard for you to understand. He was proven guilty, which is why he went to prison, and then he eventually got off on a technicality. He was proven guilty, though. I don't have the reason why he was proven, but the judge came to the fact and had enough evidence to prove him guilty.
Just like this judge said that Sue Robinson said that Deshaun Watson did commit these acts. Based on what? Stories.
No. He's not proven guilty yet.
Trevor.
He's not proven guilty, though. He's not. Deshaun Watson not been proven guilty yet.
He was actually proven innocent.
Yes.
No,
twice.
he wasn't.
Lance,
twice.
He was not proven innocent.
Twice.
There's only
They didn't have enough substantial evidence to
sounds
put
like
on him. That's not being proven innocent.
No, we're not defending Deshaun Watson.
Yes, you are.
No,
You guys
we're
are
not.
literally saying there's not proof.
Lance, you got to be able to play both sides here. You got to be able to hear.
Tell me what we're trying to do. Tell me why
You're
he's
getting
innocent.
really emotional right now.
No, I'm because of the fact that these are people's lives that
but
were affected
what
forever.
I'm saying is Deshaun Watson has not been proven guilty. He has not.
Again,
He would be in prison right now if that was the case.
Again, I'm comparing the fact that there are a substantial amount of people from other instances with other celebrities and him that state that these guys did what they did.
But you just said Bill Cosby, only eyewitnesses, right? So these are...
Yes,
right,
that's what they went off of.
Okay, but you were just saying that he wasn't guilty when I was telling you he was proven guilty. You were saying Bill Cosby. How was he proven guilty?
I said
how was
because
Deshaun
you
Watson
said it was proven. You said it was proven that Cosby did it.
It literally was.
So if that's the case, based on witnesses, then how was Deshaun innocent?
It wasn't just witnesses. There was. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and I just looked it up, and Bill Cosby actually said that he actually did this.
That's an admittance.
That's the most damning evidence you can have.
So you're telling me
he turned himself in. What do you mean?
Hold on. So you're telling me the only difference between Bill Cosby and Deshaun is admittance.
Do you understand how huge that is in the court of law?
Yes, but you just said it was proven outside of the person.
Is me turning myself in not me proving that I did a crime?
This is why I made the case about somebody coming to Eddie for 24 different occasions or 24 different people coming and telling you the same story. That you don't need admittance. You have 24 stories to base it off of.
Lance, you still have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. When you turn yourself in, that's reasonable. That the reasonable doubt goes out the window because the criminal turned himself in.
Did Bill Cosby come out and say, "Hey, I did this," and then the proceedings happened?
I don't know the whole thing. I just know he was proven guilty.
That's the point I'm making, Trevor, is that these were stories that came out as accusations to Bill Cosby. They then went to trial, and then he ended up admitting it. That's the difference.
But there was damning evidence according to multiple sources, and I didn't get to watch the trial. I wasn't a part of it. I wasn't a fly on the wall. He was proven guilty though.
Yeah.
That was the end of the court case. He was proven guilty. Deshaun Watson has not been proven guilty. That's all I'm saying. I'm not defending him. If he's done any one of these things one time unsolicited, that's 100% a crime, and he should do time, and he should not be able to play the sport that he loves. I agree with that, but you got to be able to objectively take a step out and look at everything for what it is. Obviously, the volume of people is definitely damning. I don't know what illegal activity actually took place. I know a lot of these women accepted money maybe in the moment, and they definitely accepted money via settlements as well. So I mean, does that hurt Deshaun Watson's look optically, or does that hurt these women's case against him optically? You got to look at that from both sides, because these women took money. It shouldn't be about the money. If you wanted to accept money to end these cases, your crime was really committed against you, why would you take the money? Why wouldn't you make this about a moral thing? Why wouldn't you make this about your...
They did by coming forward.
No, but they all took money. That's what I'm saying. Like, they've all taken money to settle.
Okay.
If I knew a crime was committed against me, it would not be about money. I would not want to settle.
But again, to my analogy about like getting hit by somebody who didn't do anything illegal, I just got hit in the street, something happened. That is not. Hold on, I'm just
analogous in any way, dude.
Okay.
This is
the
how many times have we
ruling-
seen celebrities get under fire for certain things, and then it starts piling on, just like the Me Too movement, and a lot of things like that. That was a massive.
But hold on, you're now trying to like tell these people that suffered something they shouldn't have taken money for this. Because if it's about morals, they should have just kept it about morals.
You're projecting that onto me.
You
That's
just
not
said that.
No, it's not.
No, he didn't.
No, I didn't.
Boys, you did not just say that if it was about what happened, they shouldn't have taken money. Should have been about morals.
That's truly what it should be about. If we're talking about that,
How is it not?
But I'm saying,
what does them accepting money have to do with that?
I asked the question: Who does it optically look worse on? The fact that Deshaun Watson and his legal crew settled with all these women, or the fact that all these 30+ women
It makes
settled?
Deshaun look bad because if
Okay.
he was innocent, why did he settle?
Because he obviously there was money exchange in the moment, right? For these masseuses.
Why did
in
he
those
settle,
moments.
Trevor, if he was innocent? It makes him look bad because he is the one that's settling.
No. He's pushing back on the NFL,
Houston
still fighting
Texans,
this.
You know, the Houston Texans also settled with these women, right? Because they were the ones that were putting all this together. They were assigning hotel rooms.
Logically, that's a sticky situation because does it look worse if Deshaun takes a suspension or if he pushes back and countersues? Which one looks worse?
If I'm innocent,
Yes.
I'm not settling with anybody because I know I'm innocent, and I'm going to prove that.
Okay.
Why is he settling?
So why did those women settle?
What are you talking about? It's him that has to pay them.
No. The victims, though. You're saying if you know that if you're victimized, why would you settle? Why would you not want to make sure that you're
lawsuit, Trevor? They won. They got they got their payment.
So that's
Well, they didn't win because they
They
didn't
didn't.
actually.
How are you not seeing it from the other side? That
Nobody's
he had
won
to settle.
anything, though, bro.
He
Like-
had to settle because he's the one that caused the action. He's the one that did the wrong. If he's not wrong,
Yeah, but nothing-
and he's innocent, why is he paying them?
But he would.
Why?
But nothing was actually wrong that we know of, though, because there was no crime that has actually been committed or proven.
When Tyreek Hill, we found out that he was innocent. Did he pay any fines? Did he get suspended? Did he have to pay her anything? No. It was proven
Because
he was not wrong.
he actively,
that's why he
actively recorded and had proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
Right, Trevor.
That's a different scenario,
Okay,
dude.
the problem I'm trying to make to you is that's exactly right.
There's no footage of Sean doing anything criminally. There's no footage. All there is hearsay.
Unfortunately,
and
yeah,
accusations. That's it, dude.
Unfortunately, that's what
And I'm
it
not
is.
trying to defend Deshaun. He could be an absolute piece of shit, but we have to. This is why the law has to be blind, bro. This is why the veil of ignorance is important in the law. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, guilty or not guilty.
Right.
Bill
and a
Cosby
federal
was
judge
proven.
says he did these things.
No, they didn't.
Sue Robinson did say that.
2 courts in Texas said he was.
I don't know how all that went
If
down.
he did
I
these
do
things,
know that
that's a crime. He would be in
a
prison.
former federal judge did
be
say in
in
her
prison.
final verdict he did these things. You do realize that,
Yeah, but
right?
money was-
there were 5 cases presented to her,
these-
and she said he did the things these women accused him of.
But they were solicited. There was money given.
There was no jury.
It wasn't for sexual activity. They were paid to be a massage therapist.
I
How
don't
is
know.
that not like the forefront of all this? He came to these women on DMs,
Yeah, I
not
don't-
through a professional
I can't-
situation.
I can't
He
really
had-
speak on
he had
all the-
masseuses from his company, from the Texans. He had them there, ready to go, but he was seeking these women out, trying to supporting black businesses, which is creeper shit to begin with, because he's
course.
literally seeking, he's hunting these women. He's a fucking predator, and he's coming out here, and he's not asking them for sexual activity until they're in the moment. This has been proven. No DMs talk about, hey, I'm trying to, you want to... None of that. It was not. There was no proposition. There was no loiter or a soliciting of any type. It was when they were in the moment. And Sue Robinson confirmed.
You're saying
that-
all these things as if they're facts. I don't know that.
No,
I don't know
saying that the judge who looked through the 1,600 pages and articles
So
and
why-
accusations
okay.
said that he did these things.
Those are sex crimes, right? Why is he not in
Yes.
prison? If he was guilty, why is he not in prison,
I
dude?
don't know, Trevor. I'm just
but
telling you
he's
what
not-
I do know. What I do know is
No,
a
no.
federal judge said he did these things.
No, but- okay,
that
but-
cannot be disclosed. That cannot be
that might
debated.
be an opinion piece. I don't
It's
know.
not an opinion piece. She's
Nice,
going off
relax,
what they
bro.
know.
Relax. All I'm saying is, in the court of law, if you are proven to have sex crimes, he would 100% be in jail right now.
Then why isn't Ezekiel Elliott and Ben Roethlisberger?
Dude, those were different.
Did they not do those
lifted
things?
a
Hold on.
girl's shirt.
Do we not believe those things happened?
I don't know. I don't know if they've been raped a woman. I don't know that.
Well, he was proven innocent.
Yes, he was proven
In a court
innocent,
of
or else
law.
he'd be in jail. Okay. Ezekiel Elliott, I think, lifted a girl's shirt, correct? At a party.
Yeah, there was a video.
I mean, that's every weekend you can go
Yes,
to
we have
Westport
video
and
of
see
that. He didn't go to jail.
That's not a sex crime.
We have a video of him doing
That's
that.
not
He didn't
a
go to
sex
jail.
crime.
So you can't use that as a defense
That
for
is not
Deshaun
a
Watson.
sex crime,
But she
though.
has to sue him in
That's
order
not a
for
sex
even to
crime.
go
Do
to
you guys hear what you're
trial.
saying? Do you guys hear what you're saying? These women chose to sue Deshaun Watson. Zeke Elliott, there was video evidence of him doing that. He didn't go to jail.
That's not a sex crime. He lifted a woman's shirt. He didn't assault anyone.
Okay, that's not sexual. That's not sexual.
That is not a sex crime.
It's
You
assault.
can't go to jail for doing that.
No, it's assault. It's sexual
Thank
assault.
you,
yes.
Eddie. Thank
no,
you.
But
No, I'm not.
But there's this. Like, she didn't sue him. Therefore, there was no trial. Therefore, he can't go to jail.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying
was
to
a
say.
video that
I'm
was
not,
leaked.
there was she had enough proof to send him to jail for sexual assault or give him probation or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And him having to pay a hefty sum to her if she had taken him to court, but she chose not to. I'm sure they settled somehow.
Yeah.
But there was no trial for him to get sentenced. So you can't even say, it's like, why is he in jail? Because Ezekiel Elliott had no trial
There was
for him.
There was no accuser.
Exactly.
It was a video that leaked, and
Yeah.
it was just
There
it
were-
was a bad
so
look.
therefore, if she had sued him and went to trial, therefore he could have gotten convicted for a crime. Therefore, he either serves a sentence, pay a fine, do probation. That doesn't mean he was not guilty, because there was evidence. We all saw the evidence. The evidence leaked on Twitter. We all saw it.
I'm just saying.
I'm not defending Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, comparing
There's
those
just,
two situations
There's
is
just no evidence that has leaked. It's what they're going off of.
Okay.
I'm not defending Deshaun Watson.
No, I'm not either. I'm just you have to go by how the court and judicial system
yes.
is and what is proven and is not proven. That's all that matters at the end of the day, dude. Like that's all that really matters, and I get it.
Yeah.
There's
I
one woman
have
left
nothing to say.
that's still pushing. I mean, I think you're a little
This is
emotionally
situation-
attached.
I am
Just-
very emotional, dude. These are people. We can't look at this as like as some like non-living entities. I can't look at this
Who's
and go, well,
doing
we
that?
can't prove it.
Okay,
yes, we can. When there's 24
Who's doing that?
people.
What you just said right now? Though?
I'm not saying. I'm telling you from my perspective why I'm so emotionally invested into this, because there are people that were affected by this for the rest of their lives.
Okay, I get that, dude, but I don't. None of us know what happened. None of us know what happened. If we knew what happened, we had damning evidence, and he was proven guilty, he would be in jail, regardless of how much money he has right now. He would be in jail if he was proven. Bill Cosby went to jail, went to prison.
Simply because he admitted.
Are you really trying to downplay an admittance?
No,
I don't
I'm not.
understand what's happening here.
I'm saying that they didn't find anything.
if
on
Deshaun
him.
Watson admitted he did these things, he would be in jail, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay,
That's literally the only difference between the two men.
No, it's not, dude.
Okay.
No, it's not.
So what was
Bill
the proof
Cosby
they found
stuff?
on Bill Cosby?
Bill Cosby's predated.
You looked it up. Well, tell me what did they find?
Bill
They find
Cosby's,
video,
Bill
they
Cosby's
find-
victims went back 50
Hold on.
plus years.
Did they find videos,
bro.
pictures, anything? Because that would be proof. It was simply he admitted it. That's the only difference between him and Deshaun Watson. Because you just said it.
So
If
other-
Desha-
having-
you-
so
did you not
having
just
other-
hold on?
having
Did you
other-
not just say if Deshaun admitted he'd go to jail?
Of course. What do you mean?
That's literally the only difference between the two. So they have a
so
plethora of
literally the only difference between being guilty and not guilty is being guilty? No fucking duh, dude. I get that. I'm just saying, like, that's obviously what matters. Admitting guilt means you're guilty. So Deshaun has not admitted guilt, nor does he claim to be guilty, and is fighting this tooth and nail, obviously, to play football. Again, not defending him, but that's the difference between him and Bill Cosby. And Bill Cosby's claims went 50 plus years back, and there was eyewitnesses of him at bars doing these things to women. That's far different than having eyewitnesses of Deshaun doing these things in massage parlors.
I think it's you look at these cases.
17-month span of 66 women being hit up by a guy on Instagram on DMs about.
Of course, there's a paper trail of him hitting up Masusa, but that doesn't prove anything. Okay. That just proves the fact that he got a hold of these women. It doesn't prove anything, bro. You have to take your emotions out of it.
I think
you have
to. The comparison between Bill Cosby and Deshaun Watson, one's rape, one's sexual assault. It's two completely different crimes.
We gotta move on.
Deshaun was.
I can't get with that.
Yeah, you can obviously.
That's you're ranking the sexual.
That's how the judicial system works.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Why is there different forms of manslaughter?
We can talk about duration of sentencing if we're gonna do
so
that.
if someone died, it was killed. There's different forms of manslaughter, correct?
Trevor,
yes. So that's a ranking.
Okay, no, you didn't even hear what I'm saying. Okay. I'm saying that now we're looking at like, well, I don't know, man. That I don't really look at that as a big a deal because I mean,
no,
he didn't
no. That's not what Eddie's saying. There's degrees here, Lance. That's not what he's saying.
I didn't say that.
So what were we saying?
There's a differences between.
What are you saying? No, I'll give you platform. Go ahead.
No, that's what I said. There's a difference between Bill Cosby and Deshaun Watson. One's rape. It's completely different. It is viewed completely different than what sexual assault is. Yes, I get it. It's sexual assault, and if you're guilty, fuck you. Whatever. You're a piece of shit. But it is two completely different crimes. That's all I said. It's just two completely different crimes, and it's in the judicial systems. They're ranked differently. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that he's fucking innocent. I'm not saying that.
Okay. But I was trying to figure out what you meant by that because I thought you were talking about like, well, it's not that as big of a deal.
No, I didn't say that. No.
Okay.
They're both severe, but in the judicial system,
100%. First-degree manslaughter is worse than third-degree manslaughter. I agree with that. Vehicular manslaughter is different than hitting someone with a bike who later dies in the hospital. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's why it's very hard to compare the two cases
Yes.
because it is two completely different crimes.
I was looking at the evidence. That's all I was trying to say.
No, I get it. Yeah.
God damn, you guys got exclusive content here of us having a spirited debate that we usually have off camera. But that's
we're getting canceled. Sorry, guys.
This is what's so funny. Like I said, you guys saw me from a different perspective. You guys walked me back from it. I think that was at least a year ago, and then now I'm seeing it from the other side of it, and it's something that I have a hard time defending anybody in or looking at it and saying, well, I need to see substantial proof. And again, there is a myriad of people that are telling me the same story.
Again, no one's defending Deshaun.
I know, and I don't think you guys were, to clarify that.
Defending the law.
This is something I get. You and I, Eddie, we've had our talks about this on and off air, and this is something I'm so big on because again, this is looking at it from Trevor said it himself, a representation of the league. Court-wise, he did get exonerated, or not exonerated, but there's no substantial evidence.
And I mean, to
I'm
clarify,
looking at it from a football side.
We're no lawyers, so we don't. You know what I mean? But I like to see it in like the law kind of view, kind of like see what like the judicial system let the judicial system work. I kind of see it in that way. I don't see it as like 24 accusers guilty. I don't see it that way. I kind of let the whole thing play out, kind of see what it is, how it's looking. He could have done all those things. He could not have done all those things. We don't know.
What I do know, though, is it's going to be a longer suspension than 6 games, and I think that's what we have to focus on right now from the football side of things. The Browns are not going to have their quarterback, in my opinion, that they traded for and paid all that money to this season. Yeah. I'm very confident in it. I definitely don't think it's going to be 6 games. I don't think it's going to be single-digit games. I think at worst, at best, it'll be double-digit games, and then that's where we'll go from there. And hopefully this will happen soon. I do know that they talked about the process is going to be expedited because they know the league year or regular season starts in about 35-ish days. So we'll see how that goes and when it'll happen. But I'm expecting by this time next week we will know for sure what's going to happen, the severity of the suspension. But it is going to happen.
The NFL is going to do what they need to do to protect its brand. That's
because they already have a terrible reputation with women. Women already have like I've talked to 3 different big football fans that happen to be women that I know personally this week, and I asked them, I was like, what are your before this Deshaun situation ever happened, like what were your thoughts on like how the NFL values like domestic violence and all these other things? And they're like, oh yeah, I don't have any confidence in them, and I can't really refute it because of the fact that again there have been so many, like Ray Rice for instance. I mean let's break that down.
He wasn't even suspended until
they were going to give him a little slap on the wrist.
Camera,
and the moment that drops, like, all right, you're done. It's like, wait a second, you guys had this video.
Exactly, yeah.
Like,
the NFL saw the video before anybody else.
And TMZ got it, I think it was.
And they didn't fucking suspend him.
Yeah, I think it may have been like a 2-game suspension. Yeah. They were just going to give him a little, and then all of a sudden the video comes out. Done. You're never going to see Ray Rice again. Exactly. So
yeah, it was rough.
These are touchy subjects. I know we get spirited on here, but this is what happens when you get 3 practical brothers in the same place having an opinion on a matter. I just like I said, I know you guys all see it the same way I do. I'm so much more zealous about some of this shit.
Justice needs to be served. Yeah. Period. If anyone's guilty of any crime, justice needs to be served, man. I hope he does time in prison if he's fucking guilty of this shit.
Is that the end of the Eddie hour? Oh, Eddie 2 hour? We have one more order of business to get to. You guys have gotten raw content, like I said today, but that's the way we like to keep it around here. What's it called, guys? I forgot. Hold this L! Each and every week, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports, whether they're friendly L's or not so friendly L's in the world of sports. We promise you, whoever is holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Eddie, I'll go right back to you, Mr. Yo. Who's holding the L for you this week, and is it F1?
No F1. We ain't got F1 till the end of August, so that's sad.
You gotta be sad.
Yeah. No, it's gonna go. I'm gonna give my L to FC Barcelona. Obviously, they went on a spending spree this offseason. They bought, I believe, close to $200 million worth of players this offseason. But news came out yesterday saying that none of those players can be registered into the league because obviously FC Barcelona, who is broke, has no money, has technically no money to pay these players. Therefore, the league is denying the request to enroll these players in the league until FC Barcelona clears their books and kind of proves that they have the financial backing to support these signings.
Right.
So you purchase all these players and you're still about to spend more money on two more players. I believe they're trying to get Alexander Arnold from Liverpool, the right back, for I believe it was a rough estimate of $65 million, and then they're getting the left back from Chelsea, Marcos Alonso, for around $10 million. That's what they're looking for, or looking into. No official bids as of yet, but that is two players that FC Barcelona is really keeping a close eye on, and are expected to make a bid for. You already have an issue in your own league where you can't even enroll the players that you already bought.
Whoops.
And you're still trying to spend even more money. I would say they've probably spent close to $200 million already in this offseason. It's insane. And just last year they had I believe it was 2021 or 2020 where they had a 1.3 billion deficit in their income or whatever they call it. So they lost $1.3 billion in 1 year. And you're all of a sudden coming. You can't even afford to pay Messi last year. That's why he went to PSG. And now all of a sudden you're buying all these players for close to $200 million euros, and are close to signing two more, putting you probably over 200 million euros. I just don't know where you're getting this money from. I don't know what happened between last year and this year. But man, not being able to enroll your players that you bought, it's just funny as fuck. So for that reason, FC Barcelona, you're going to have to do me a favor and
hold this L. Trevor Twidwell, who's holding the L for you this week?
I just want to, before I give my L, I just want to give out this. Ian Rappaport has just tweeted a few minutes ago that the Chiefs are sending wide receiver Devin Gray to a 1-year deal after a solid workout per his agent. Gray is most recently from the USFL and has spent time with the Falcons and Ravens.
By Josh Gordon.
I mean, if we're signing them after a good workout on a 1-year deal, I mean, that just adds another.
Yeah, that's just.
It's a camp body for sure, but I like the idea because, like I said, I don't know the extent of Darius Fountain's injury. I know you said he was at practice today. I don't know was he active. I don't know if he was or not. I didn't hear anything about Darius Fountain. But if he's injured for any length of time, Devin Gray might step in and be a special teamer guy for the preseason.
He had a good workout as a receiver, so I mean, they're looking at him from the receiver side. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Options open,
Yeah, so that's another guy in the mix of a deep ass wide receiver room. No, my L is gonna go to the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, so DeAndre Hopkins is already missing what, 6 games?
6 games.
6 games this year for that's a whole sketchy.
But wasn't proven. I was kidding.
No. I mean
I'm just kidding. I was kidding.
Yeah, I kind of feel for certain players sometimes because a lot of times there are things that get mixed into their batches of medicine and things that they take on that cannot always be their fault.
He's been clean, so
that's what I'm saying. His track record's been spotless, so
Yeah.
I feel for him on this. And 6 games is hefty for him, man. Granted, he was dealing with this happened the same time he was dealing with knee injury.
That was kind of weird.
So it was
he should have went to Mexico and got some stem cells, wink wink, like Peyton Manning did. Came back with his new neck and everything. Yeah.
He got a new neck.
Yeah.
Amazon delivered it to him.
I thought his neck looked a little
This next
longer.
a little
this
bit
season.
longer. What's going on here?
Neck replacement. No, so on top of that, we got their newest acquisition in Hollywood Brown, Marquise Hollywood Brown, who I like as a receiver. He's a deep threat, speedster kind of guy. Great addition to their offense. I thought was going to be a good addition, which still definitely could be, but has not started off his career with the Cardinals off very well. He was arrested amongst, I think, 4 or 5 charges and a speed, or no, 3 total charges for speeding. So the criminal charges so far is speeding in Arizona. He exceeded 85 miles an hour. Exceeded the posted speed limit by over 20 miles per hour.
I do that on a Tuesday.
Exceeded the speeding limit over 35 miles per hour approaching the school zone.
Oof, I don't do that.
This is just another example. I just don't, and I'll forever say this, I don't understand famous people in general, but athletes when they buy these supercars and these fast cars and these other cars and they're out there driving them. Obviously, driving them under the influence is another thing. We've seen that numerous times within the sports world, and I just don't understand that ignorance there. But just speeding alone and flying through these streets, why are you driving? I don't understand why these guys, if you're going to drive, why are you driving at those extended speeds? Not only are you it's just a reckless mindset a lot of these athletes have, and I don't understand it, especially a guy that just got paid, starting his career anew, somewhere else, new location, going to a good team, honestly, a good team, one of the best teams in the league last year in the regular season, has a chance to play with another good quarterback, and now he's going to start off. It's just I feel bad for the Cardinals because I know they traded for him, they put a lot into it, they traded multiple picks for him to make that happen, and then this is the first real his first impact that he's made on the team is criminal charges and speeding in school zones. It's like Jesus Christ, dude, like.
Noisy teams, man.
I don't understand.
Teams.
Yeah, it's so frustrating to see like these petty little crimes, these little things these guys are doing, and speeding in cars and reckless with their lives when they've made it. Like, preserve that. Extend your career. Create that generational wealth for your family. Continue to do those things. Prolong your career. Don't fuck up and speed and drive recklessly and possibly end your life, like we've seen other guys in doing this. It's just this has always been a thing. Especially in the athlete world, where these guys just feel invincible and they act as so, and they think they're above the law. They think they're above all these things, and it's really, really frustrating, just the recklessness of these guys. So, simultaneously, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Arizona Cardinals, do me a favor and
hold this L. I want to start off with a W because of the fact that I think that this is quite an achievement. Tom Brady is such a decorated individual and quarterback in this league. Many people call him the GOAT. I think without question he's the most successful player of all time because of how many Super Bowls he's won, how many Super Bowl appearances he's had. He's up there in the record charts with pretty much every other quarterback that's ever lived outside of like maybe Drew Brees and Peyton Manning. He's got better numbers than everybody. I think the most impressive thing in Tom Brady's career is how many times he's been in the midst of cheating scandals. And it's so great. Tom Brady now has been involved in all 3 scandals in which NFL teams had to forfeit first-round picks as a punishment for tampering charges. In 2008, Spygate. In 2016, Deflategate. And then 2021, him and Sean Payton, for a minimum, they said, of 2 years, were talking to the Miami Dolphins about teaming up where Sean Payton would move from the Saints and go to the Dolphins as their head coach. Tom Brady would become a quote-unquote player-owner personality for the team, where he would play maybe a year for the team and then become one of the minority owners for the team with Stephen Ross. I think this is a crowning achievement for Tom Brady because, and it's so disappointing almost because we look at the other quote unquote cheaters throughout the history of other sports like Barry Bonds. People will forever call him a cheater. People talk about Pete Rose. Oh, he bet on the game, and so that is always a large part of his legacy. But for some reason, Tom Brady doesn't get talked about as a cheater, even though now again all 3 of the scandals that cost team first-round picks, Tom Brady is exclusively involved in them. And like Trevor talked about earlier about smoke, there's fire. Where there's smoke, there's Tom Brady. Because the man is the fire. He's the one that's a part of all of it. He ignites all this.
The bonfire.
And I want to say something, man. I think there needs to be, I know that there's a rule in place in the NFL where tampering, players can't get in trouble for it, right? They can't get in trouble for tampering. But that rule was created because more times than not, almost every other time outside of Tom Brady's situations, the tampering is the teams approaching the player. Where they're like, hey, we want you to be on the team, this, and they're under contract still. With Tom Brady, he was literally orchestrating this while under contract with the Patriots and the Buccaneers. He was doing this with 2 different franchises, trying to work his way with the Miami Dolphins. And Sean Payton was still under contract with the Saints, trying to do this as well. Players should be suspended for things like this. I think Tom Brady should be suspended for what he did. And they're like, well, it's against the law, it's against the rules. I don't care. Change the law, change the rule. Because he was the one that was trying to orchestrate this, and why this isn't a bigger deal is hilarious to me. So I want to give a W to Tom Brady because he's in the record books again, and this is, to me, his crowning achievement. My L's going to Colin Cowherd, and you're going to hear why.
Oh, boy.
In a second, I promise.
So there was a headline yesterday on the internet from a site called Outkick. It's a sports political website. The headline alone is one of the great headlines in the history of quarterbacks. I'll read it to you. Aaron Rodgers' girlfriend, Blue of Earth, who had to address witch rumors earlier this summer, reacts to the Packers quarterback's self-love journey via a psychedelic brew used by Amazonian tribes that cause hallucinations. There's like 6 names of bands in there. If you have a garage band, you're thinking of a name, Witch Rumors is way up there, only to be followed by Psychedelic Brew. So Aaron went and he experimented with actually a very ancient and serious healing method, serious in like Central America, South America. They take it seriously. Occasionally Americans, self-important Americans, think they can just dabble their toe in it, take a hallucinogenic brew, yak, and think their world changed. All right, he used the word lover. We're not allowed to use that on this show, ever, under any circumstances. So Aaron drank a psychedelic tea that made him hallucinate and yak, and he said it took him to a different realm. Aaron, I'm older than you. It happened to me, too. It was college. I had 6 rum drinks in 90 minutes. I saw weird things and yak, too. I moved into a different realm. It was the realm of that's the worst damn hangover I've ever had in my life. And it changed me. The next morning, I absolutely made a point in my life to never drink Captain Morgan's again. Aaron, lots of people have tried this psychedelic tea. They're called hippies, burnouts, and affluent white people with too much time on their hands and nobody in their life to call out their crap. Aaron's got no owner, no real relationship with his brother or his parents, and no wife. I'm semi-serious here, but I like my pro athletes to be married to strong women. They call you out on their crap. I got into an argument with a friend not long ago. My wife told me right to my face, be a man, Colin, don't be passive-aggressive. She was right, I was wrong. Had I been single, I would have become self-absorbed, pointing fingers. Kevin Durant's had some weird decisions in recent years. You think if he was married, he went to his wife and said, I'm going to leave Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Steve Kerr, the best owner, GM in the league, and I'm going to go and play with Kyrie Irving. His wife would have said, get in the damn phone, have lunch, figure it out. You're leaving by yourself. Kyrie Irving, I'm not getting a vax. I believe if Kyrie Irving was married, his wife would have said, get to a damn pharmacy. You're part of a team. Get over yourself. James Harden, Aaron Rodgers, rich, getting older, single, no woman to hold you accountable. You look at those Super Bowls, a lot of married dudes. Mannings are married, Brady's married, Russell Wilson married. Big Ben was in all sorts of trouble when he wasn't married. Then he got married. Got a little heavy, didn't work out as hard, but I liked him more. Kyler Murray this offseason, my takeaway on him, honestly, about 2 weeks ago, dude needs to get married. Get off the video games. Maybe I'm semi-serious, but women hold us accountable. Guys, when they get rich and older and single, get really self-absorbed. Who holds Aaron accountable? No owner in Green Bay to call him on his crap. Fake Hollywood friends aren't going to do it. Who holds him accountable?
Let Let me first address the fact that I find the entertainment value of all this, because if this was like a comedy routine or in a movie, I'd be laughing my ass off, because it is hilarious the way he's depicting this and using it in an excessive amount of straw man arguments to make his point about this. I'm not. Eddie was talking to Trevor was talking earlier about how they're not lawyers, so the legalities of the Deshaun Watson situation is very much in flux, and there are some things that we might be ignorant or naive to when it comes to those things. I think it's been proven now that Colin is that when it comes to using plant-based, psychoactive, or psychedelic drugs. It's funny, too, because within the first 30 seconds of his tangent on Aaron Rodgers using psychedelic drugs to better himself, he acknowledged the fact that this psychedelic drug, ayahuasca, is used for healing. It's an ancient remedy used for healing. And Colin went on, and I don't want to put words in his mouth. You guys can hear the multiple tangents he had on this show about this, and he always has had a hard-on for Rodgers because Rodgers won't come on his show, and they've had an issue. So I know that this was always going to be a thing. It's funny to me how folks like Colin Cowherd can be so ignorant to this and willingly ignorant to this and almost be proud of it because it's something they're not comfortable with themselves. And then at the same time trying to draw comparisons by using alcohol, which is known to kill people in more ways than one, is extremely ineffective at bettering yourself mentally or emotionally or physically. But you wanted to draw parallels with having hangovers with using alcohol as opposed to using natural plant-based psychedelics. And I ain't trying to sound like a hippie here or anything like that. I've never used psychedelics in my entire life. But what I can appreciate, whether this actually truly helps Aaron Rodgers or not, is the fact that it's funny, we live in a society, people like Colin Cowherd, who loves to just simplify a lot of things, likes to play this game about anti-toxic masculinity and how men need to quit trying to be like Mr. Marlboro Man and tough and rigid and too afraid to show their feelings. And that's always been like this pushback in our society over the last forever. But then guys like Aaron Rodgers, who have been accused of said things and being narcissistic and selfish and things of that nature, decide to come out and be vulnerable about things and talk about their mishaps and their misjudgments and their mistakes they've made and how they've done things like this in order to become better people. And we're going to knock him for that now. So Aaron Rodgers and people like him who are seeking self-help are now being criticized for trying to better themselves. I don't know if this actually helped Aaron Rodgers, but I can only go off of what I've heard. And unlike Colin Cowherd, I guarantee you he didn't. I actually listened to the entire podcast that Aaron Rodgers did about this. And he goes into specific detail about what this experience has done for him, which, by the way, he's been doing for years now. This isn't some new thing he's been doing. He's been doing this since he was with Danica Patrick, which was over 10 years ago. And since then, Aaron Rodgers has had one of the greatest 10-year stretches in the history of the NFL. So obviously it's doing nothing negative in his game, and being an advanced age quarterback still at the top of his game, I'd imagine it's actually doing something positive for him. And if we've seen anything from his personality, because you guys know, Eddie, Trevor, and I, we've had our many talks about the way Aaron Rodgers has mishandled a lot of shit and how he's been untruthful, he's lied about things. I haven't stood in support of a lot of the decisions he's made or the way he's acted about things, but this should tell you guys that this man realizes at this part of his life and over the last several years that he's got to get better as a person. So if in fact this is helping him, how are we sitting here knocking this man for doing what he does? I don't understand that at all. And by the way, the whole part about Colin Cowherd saying that he likes his quarterbacks or his people to be married and be with these strong women. It's funny because Colin Cowherd himself's actually been divorced. And a couple of the guys that he had mentioned as examples of guys that are these strong men that have strong women and foundations in their marriage, some of those guys were also divorced. So what happened in those first marriages? Why did those fail? Oh, and being single, a man that takes care of his own is somehow a negative thing. A guy that can stand on his own 2 feet, not needing that. Now, I'm not knocking. If you want to get married, you want to have a great relationship. Awesome. I hand clap to you. But a guy like Rodgers who can stand on his own 2 feet and take care of his own problems and go out there on multiple podcasts on the Pat McAfee show and stand his own ground. Albeit, I thought his stance was extremely ignorant on the vaccine. But him going on multiple podcasts and not being ashamed or afraid to stand on his own 2 feet and speak his mind and speak his truth is something that we should commend. And I think Colin, I'll be honest with you, I've been a follower of Colin Cowherd since I can remember, since my high school days. I think this was by far his most foolish ignorant and deliberately stupid take of his entire radio career. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I've listened to this multiple times to make sure that I didn't hear him incorrectly, because more times than not, Colin's been a very heartfelt individual that's never gone above and beyond to try to discriminate somebody. He did that. He crossed the line with me on this one with Aaron Rodgers, calling people out, calling them hippies, burnouts, and self-entitled or self-indulged white folks. Like, that's some weird shit, man. Because you're basically saying that only white Americans are doing this stuff, when he himself said this is an ancient remedy that goes back beyond America in itself. I think that's just wrong, and for that, go good. Do it.
I just want to throw. I don't want to steal your thunder at all, but I just want to say that that's his whole argument. Leading into his argument, it was already self-defeating because he set up the premise of marriage, right? And he set up the idea of having a strong woman. Does he not know that his new girlfriend, this witch he was kind of like shitting on to start the conversation, is the one that helped him get to where he's at now, is the one that pushed him to come out about this and have this conversation? So you're talking about you want all your guys to, all your favorite players and these the players you respect have strong women that would help them make decisions. This woman is the one that helped him, guide him to make this decision, even guided him to get a new tattoo, which we can talk about that as a whole other thing, but like got him to be more open about the usage of this. So she's the one backing him and having him do that. That's a strong woman, right? Okay. And then he also talked about all these Hall of Famers, one of my favorite, all these Hall of Famers, what do they have? Most of these guys are all married. So if Aaron Rodgers never gets married, you're telling me he's not going to be a Hall of Famer? He's not going to be on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks? He already is. He's already a shoo-in to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So that also defeats his argument. I don't even know like what ground he's even standing on foundation-wise to even have that argument against Aaron Rodgers. He's literally, the argument he's setting up to shit on Aaron Rodgers, he's breaking all of that.
Yeah.
It's self-defeating. It didn't make any sense. And lastly, Colin Cowherd he just showed he's just simply a prude. Comparing the psychedelics to drinking too much alcohol in college. You are a prude, bro. He needs more life experience. Nick Wright, get your guy.
Yeah, get your guy, Nick. And when you see him next, hand him this. Do me a solid, Colin Cowherd, and hold this L.
Yeah, that was rough, man. When you sent me the audio, I was like,
I honestly couldn't believe when I was listening, because I watch his show every single day, because I'm a big, you guys know, I follow these guys not so much for their takes, but their delivery, their cadences. I like to study. I follow these guys for that reason. This almost made me say, you know what, I cannot watch his show anymore, because this is just absurdly ignorant, and honestly, it's steering people in the wrong way, because it almost makes men be fearful of opening up about the way they're feeling or what they're going through.
Well, that too, and it also is a damning argument against men.
Yeah,
as a men, there's a gray, a silver, not a silver lining, but like a gray area there that was kind of very insulting to men in general. Talking about how he's pretty much setting the precedent that men can make their own decisions, bro. As if Aaron Rodgers isn't the reason he's where he's at right now. For the hard work, insulting Kevin Durant as if Kevin Durant isn't arguably one of the greatest players of all time because of his work ethic and him getting himself there. Right. You think he needs a woman to make the decisions on which team he plays for?
Right. Hey, real quick.
That's strange,
real
bro.
Quick, who's the greatest golfer of all time? What happened in 2009? Oh, that's right. His wife went and took his golf clubs and pegged his car with it, and then they got divorced. That's the greatest golfer of all time, and he was in a marriage, and that failed. Right. Does that take away from him and all of a sudden his decision? Because he was married when he was making those decisions, right? He was cheating on his wife and he was doing all this shit and still going out and winning PGA tours and all that shit.
Such a strange argument.
That's what I'm saying. You can never make blanket statements like that. Yeah. You can never make blanket statements like that. And it's also funny because he's talking about Kyler Murray, and I brought him into the equation. Kyler Murray's getting married next year.
Yeah. And all these athletes too, these elite athletes got there because of them, because of their capabilities and their work ethic. Shitting on that is just a bad look, and making it about a woman guiding them.
I almost want to go do psychedelics after that just to see.
Shit. Yeah, so saying, Colin, that's my.
Eddie, get on.
That was why my response to you in that text was like, he needs to do some shrooms because my God, he's a prude, bro. That's such a prude take.
It's an ignorant take.
Yeah.
And guys, I really hope that you've enjoyed this show today because we really got into some detail and everything. It's been great to do this. I mean, but this usually been the norm of how we've done that. We try to cut it down a little bit, but the way things are going right now in the sports world, it's kind of hard not to go into detail, and plus we have to wait one whole week, so there's a lot to get out. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this, man. You guys have seen some spirited debates today, and it's been a lot of fun. We have fun every single week, and I hope you guys do too. This time next week, the Chiefs will be playing an actual preseason game, so we're going to figure out our schedule with all that because the game will be going right as we would be doing the show. So we're going to figure that all out. But nevertheless, we will be having a show next week, and we will break down what we've been seeing from the team from both training camp and in the preseason. Man, we're this close, guys. We got a few weeks left, and we're going to be talking about some real, actual NFL football. I can't wait to get back to it. I'm sure Eddie can't wait to get back to F1 as well. So we'll be having all that very soon, and I hope you guys are ready as well. Thank you guys so much for already subscribing to YouTube. If you've not done that, hit up our YouTube channel and subscribe there, and definitely hit us up on some conversation because that's what we're all about here at the Spoken Podcast. But in the meantime, for Eddie Ortiz, for Trevor Twidwell, for the great Clay Windler that puts all this stuff together, I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 178 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And until we're here 1 week's time for episode 179, we out of this bitch. Later.
See ya. Oh, Colin